Chapter 523. Pft! Yin Jian beat him up. Lin Kuan's vulgar words made even Chu Ning, who was running behind him, curse out loud. After hearing Lin Kuan's shameless words, Chu Ning could not care less about Yin Jian's earlier advice. This fatty is too disgusting. How did someone like him get selected into the advanced special forces? Hee. Lin Kuan, who weighed more than 200 kilograms, stood there motionless. Needless to say, he was the heavyweight of battling dragons. And he was also the one with the greatest strength. Even the big trees on the ground could be uprooted with great difficulty, not to mention blocking Yin Jian and the rest from passing through this passageway that was less than 1.5 meters wide. Lin Kuan was thinking about Yin Jian's voluptuous figure. He would feel like he was floating in the air if he were to touch such a beautiful woman. Lin Kuan was just thinking about this when Yin Jian reached the staircase that was one step lower than him. Yin Jian smirked coldly. She extended her leg and kicked the staircase up without saying a word. Hee, pretty girl, you should give up struggling. You want to kick me with your leg? Dream on. Before he could finish his sentence, Lin Kuan suddenly felt Yin Jian's kick was full of strength, and his fat body was tilting to the side. Bam! Lin Kuan's fat body fell to the ground with a loud thud. When Lin Kuan felt the force of Yin Jian's kick, his round eyes widened and widened again. It was only when his 200-kilogram body fell to the ground that he felt immense pain, and fear spread from his heart to his surroundings. At this moment, Yin Jian had already walked past Lin Kuan and ran forward without saying a word. Chu Ning and the rest then walked past Lin Kuan, who was on the ground, and ran up the mountain. Chu Ning could not hold herself back. When she walked past Lin Kuan, she said angrily, "You want to touch my Yin Jian? Damn fatty, you must have a death wish. Haha, this is your retribution." After saying that, Chu Ning caught up with the team without looking back. After Lin Kuan fell to the ground, the intense pain made him lose the strength to stand up. At this moment, Yin Jian had already led Chu Ning and the rest to the top of the mountain. Apart from Lin Kuan, the other 6 members of Battling Dragons were right in front of Yin Jian. F***ck, they're catching up. Didn't that damn fatty stop them? A skinny and lean boy from Battling Dragon Squad turned around and exclaimed in shock and horror. This boy's name was Su Rue. Su Rue was probably the slimmest boy in Battling Dragons team. He was 1.8 meters tall, and his appearance was quite similar to that of the girls in school. Even if we die, we can't let them catch up to us. We have to win this round. If we lose this round, we'll only get a draw at most. A draw will also mean our failure. The only girl in Battling Dragons said with a frown. The only girl in Battling Dragons was named Yuluo. What Yuluo said was very reasonable. There were only 3 possibilities for this PK. Win, lose, or draw. The former would allow Battling Dragons to replace Yin Jian and the other advanced special forces members. However, if Battling Dragons lost or drew with Team Monarch, it would mean that they were not qualified to replace Yin Jian and the other advanced special forces members. They could only do so if they won. Even if it was a draw, they had no chance. Chapter 524. By the time Yu Luo muttered to herself, the peak was already within sight. Ever since Yin Jian's team caught up with Yu Luo's team, they had been following behind them, and did not try to catch up to them in one go. At this point, Yin Jian's team had been running at a steady pace, so they still had plenty of stamina. In comparison, Yu Luo's team was already panting. Moreover, they had been talking all the way, so they used up even more energy. Hence, when they reached the peak, they found it strenuous to even bend down to pick up the little red flags on the ground. However, with sheer willpower, they grabbed the little red flags and rushed down the mountain. Going downhill was much easier than going uphill. More importantly, going downhill was an easy feat, even if one did not have enough stamina. However, when a person climbed all the way to the peak and used up most of their stamina, their legs would tremble like springs when they went downhill. That was what Yu Luo's team felt. However, when they went downhill, Yin Jian's team was not panting at all. Their legs did not even tremble. Chu Ning and the others followed closely behind Yin Jian. They were waiting for Yin Jian's signal. Yin Jian, on the other hand, followed Yu Luo's team the whole way. She had no intention of overtaking them. As for Yu Luo's team, they started to panic because Yin Jian's team was following closely behind them. Their legs were still trembling violently, but they ran faster and faster. Just like that, the team held the little red flags. Battling dragons ran in front, while Yin Jian's team followed closely behind. Soon they reached the foot of the mountain. They even ran into Lin Quan along the way. Lin Quan was big and running was not his forte, so he decided to give up after running for a while. However, he failed to stop Yin Jian's team on the path and fell instead. He was in so much pain that he could not even walk, let alone participate in the competition. At this point, Yu Luo and the others were only a dozen steps away from reaching the flat ground. When they reached flat ground, they still needed to run another 300 to 400 meters before they could return to where they were. At this point, Yu Luo and the others could clearly feel that Yin Jian and the others were gradually increasing their speed. Was he going to lose? Yu Luo gritted her teeth. She waved her hand and motioned for the people beside her to carry out the plan she had just discussed. Their battling dragon squad must not lose. Gu Junjian, Ai Guoxuan, and Chief Yuan were waiting for them to descend the mountain. At this moment, the three of them had mixed feelings. Ai Guoxuan, in particular, dug his fingernails into the fat flesh of his palm. He had been unhappy with Gu Junjian for a long time, which was why he had spent a lot of effort to find out the talents of the younger generation, such as Yu Luo in this PK competition. Then he had focused on training them. Their goal was to prepare for this day. For today, they would be able to suppress Gu Junjian. They're here. Chief Yuan could not help exclaiming when he saw a few silhouettes sprinting toward the flat ground about a dozen steps away. Chief Yuan saw two of Yu Luo's team suddenly stop when they were about to reach the last few steps. Just as Yin Jian was about to overtake them, the two of them blocked her way, attempting to pull Yin Jian's team back. As long as they could hold Yin Jian's team back, Yu Luo's team would reach the flat ground and return to where Chief Yuan and the others were. Battling dragons would then win. Among the 7 of them, a team would win as long as 4 of their members arrived first. Chapter 525. Those who could be selected as candidates for the Advanced Special Forces were definitely capable. On the other hand, Battling Dragons and Team Monarch were evenly matched. The reason why Battling Dragons dared to challenge Team Monarch was that the team led by Yu Luo and the rest had completed many military missions, just like Team Monarch. Although their results were not as shocking as Team Monarch's, they were still capable in general. When they first ran up the mountain, everyone in Battling Dragons was confident and even secretly despised Yin Jian's team. That was because Yin Jian's team completed their missions so quickly that it was almost illogical. It was an irrefutable fact. However, Team Monarch's mission and how they completed their missions were not leaked to the outside world at all. On the other hand, Battling Dragon Squad was different. The reason why Battling Dragon Squad was so famous was because they had recently completed a major mission, infiltrating the underground black market and capturing a high-ranking member of the underground black market. That was just an achievement. Although it did not sound as impressive as Team Monarch, Yu Luo and the rest went through many twists and turns when they infiltrated the underground black market to arrest the high-ranking member. They had disguised themselves and snuck into the underground black market. Later on, they had a conflict with the people of the black market. In the end, they had suffered countless injuries of varying sizes. That was how they completed their mission. Anyone in the military would be able to tell the story. What about Yunjian's team, Team Monarch? What did they go through when they recovered the antiques stolen by the international god? Even Yu Fengqing's Champ Squad and Flying Dragon Squad, who went on the mission with them, probably didn't know about this, right? Therefore, Yu Luo and the rest automatically assumed that Yunjian's team was just lucky and did not have any real capability. However, what Yu Luo and the rest did not know was that Yunjian had personally annihilated a foreign gang during her first mission. However, it was Gu Junjian who suppressed the news to prevent it from spreading. It was only natural that Yu Luo and the rest did not hear about it. Therefore, when Yunjian's team was about to catch up, Yu Luo and the rest only thought that they had good physiques. Yu Luo and the rest thought that they were skilled but had poor physiques. Therefore, when they were about to reach the last few steps, Yu Luo had two boys who were weaker and slower stopped to block Yunjian's team. Yu Luo and the rest who were the fastest sprinted to the starting point with the red flags. It was a risky move, Yu Luo's final trump card. Yu Luo, on the other hand, thought that the boys would be able to drag Yunjian's team down to the finish line if they managed to get a hold of Yunjian's team's sleeves. Yu Luo looked at dragons as Yu Luo's team's Team Monarch, Yu Luo's team's team members Team Yu Luo's team. From afar, Gu Junjian, Ai Guoxuan, and Chief Yuan could clearly see the two boys pouncing on Yunjian, who was the first to descend through the bushes, intending to hold on to Yunjian and the rest's sleeves to stop them from moving forward. Yunjian looked like she was prepared for this. Her red lips were curled up, but the moment the two boys pounced on her, she leaped into the air from the stairs. Her legs seemed to be held in place by springs as she kicked both boys' stomachs. The two boys could not react in time. At the same time, both boys were kicked to the muddy ground by Yunjian. Yunjian, on the other hand, did a 360-degree somersault in the air. Just like in martial arts movies, she landed on the ground steadily after the somersault and continued sprinting forward without any hesitation. The scene shocked Chief Yuan and the rest who were standing afar. Chapter 526. While Yu Luo was still in a daze, Yunjian ran past Yu Luo, her long hair swaying in the wind. Chu Ning and the other five were used to Yunjian's skills. Although they were more or less impressed by Yunjian's skills, they were already used to it, so they caught up with her after a slight pause. Apart from Chu Ning, who cursed Lin Quan, Lu Shiyin, and the rest did not make a sound since the start of the run. They were fully prepared. Therefore, just as Yunjian overtook the stunned Yu Luo and the rest, Jiang Weiwei was the second to do the same. Then Chu Ning and the others followed suit one after another. Just as her feet touched the ground, Yunjian began to pick up speed. She had been running at an average speed earlier, so Chu Ning and the rest had been running at the same speed as her. Therefore, the seven of them picked up their pace the moment they landed on flat ground. By the time Yu Luo and the rest reacted, cursing and running after them, Yunjian's team had already begun their final sprint. Even Chu Xiangnan, who ran at the slowest speed among Yunjian's team, had overtaken Yu Luo and the rest, and was running in front. The difference was that Chu Xiangnan still had an endless supply of energy in him, while Yu Luo and the rest were already exhausted. Now that Yunjian's team had overtaken them, they could not muster any energy to chase after them. The result was decided. Yunjian's Team Monarch was sprinting to the finish line with all seven of them at the same speed. The rule that Chief Yuan had set was that only the top seven would be chosen. In other words, the team with the most people in the top seven would win. As for Yunjian and her team of seven, they occupied all the top 7 spots. Not a single person from battling dragons could make it into the top 7. The result shocked Chief Yuan, Gu Junjian, Ai Guoxuan, and everyone else in the military who were present. By the time Yu Luo reached the finish line, Everything was set in stone. Yu Luo slumped to the ground in disappointment, gritting her teeth. It was over. Their battling dragon squad no longer had a chance. There were 2 rounds of PK between Team Monarch and Team Battling Dragon. However, the prerequisite was that battling dragons had to win the first round, which was the mountain climbing competition. Otherwise, they would not be qualified for the second round. Ha ha ha. Good, this is really exciting. After Chief Yuan recovered from his shock, he guffawed and looked at Gu Junjian approvingly, praising, "Old Gu, your Team Monarch is amazing. Amazing. I've never seen such a powerful leader in my life." The leader was naturally Yun Jian. After all, Yun Jian had always been the leader of the group. If not for Yun Jian's leadership, Team Monarch would have fallen into Battling Dragon's trap. "Chief, our Yun Jian is amazing. Ha! How can Battling Dragons compare to us?" Chu Ning smiled delightedly, but boldly struck up a conversation with Chief Yuan. To be honest, Yun Jian had considered everything during the 5-day training. She had only asked Chu Ning and the rest to memorize the map of human organs on the first day. She had been preparing them to improve their physical fitness every day after that. What impressed Chu Ning and the rest even more was that Yun Jian had mentioned that PK was not necessarily a competition of strength. If it was a competition of physical fitness, they would have to improve their physical fitness apart from their killer moves. As expected, Yun Jian's guess was spot on. They had learned their killer moves and practiced their physical fitness. Now that they had won the first round of the competition, they would not have to compete with Battling Dragon in the second round. Chapter 527. It's true that Battling Dragons can't compare to you guys. Chief Yuan agreed with Chu Ning. He was in high spirits and admired a talent like Yun Jian. So when Chu Ning, who was in the same team as Yun Jian, spoke up, he agreed with her out of habit. Chief Yuan was a man of his words. He was a man of his word, and was a man of his word. He was also carefree, and did not hold back at all. Therefore, he was not afraid of offending AI Guoxuan, or Battling Dragons, when he directly pointed out that Battling Dragons could not compare to Yun Jian's team of 7 in front of AI Guoxuan, and the rest of Battling Dragons. After all, Chief Yuan was AI Guoxuan, and the rest superior. How could Yu Luo take it when her superior pointed out that Battling Dragons could not compare to Yun Jian's team? Although Yu Luo wasn't the captain of Battling Dragons, she was their leader. Yun Jian was the one who led Team Monarch earlier. One could say that Yu Luo was Yun Jian's rival. To say that Battling Dragons could not compare to Yun Jian's Team Monarch was indirectly saying that she was not as good as Yun Jian. Yu Luo hated it when people said that she was not as good as others. Although Yun Jian did not say that she was not as good as Yu Luo, it had a different meaning when it came out of Chief Yuan's mouth. Even when Yun Jian said that she was not as good as Yu Luo was not as angry as hearing it from Chief Yuan. AI Guoxuan was already glaring at Yu Luo and the rest from the side. He had spent all his effort on them, but they had lost to him? Haha, we're all military men. Winning or losing isn't important. What's most important is harmony. That's all for the PK this time. All of you should work harder and keep up the good work. Chief Yuan patted Gu Junjian and AI Guoxuan's shoulders with a grin. With that, he put on his coat and found an excuse to leave. Someone like Chief Yuan naturally had a lot to deal with. Once Chief Yuan left, AI Guoxuan snorted at Gu Junjian and yelled angrily at Battling Dragons to leave. Let's go. Yu Luo and the rest glared at Yun Jian, and the rest as well. In his eyes, it was obvious that this matter was not over. Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan glared back at Yu Luo and the rest until Yu Luo and the rest stormed off. Seriously, who are they? Chu Xiangnan yelled angrily as he pointed at the backs of AI Guoxuan, Yu Luo, and the rest. But we're lucky we won. Jiang Weiwei flashed a rare smile and shifted her gaze to Yun Jian. She had looked down on Yun Jian as well. But now, Yun Jian was strong alone. She could lead the entire team. You guys have kept your positions in the advanced special forces. Gu Junjian breathed a sigh of relief. He smiled kindly and looked at the group, speaking first. Let's head back to the hotel later. We'll stay in F province tonight according to the original plan. You guys can go shopping in the downtown area of F province tonight. Officer Ge, would you like to come with us? Chuning cheered happily. Then, she turned to look at Ge Junjian and invited him. I'm already so old. Why would I want to go shopping? Go ahead, don't come back too late. Ge Junjian was kind to the group. He was fierce when he lectured them, but he would still let them relax when they needed to. I'm not going either. Yin Jian pursed her lips and stretched lazily. Chapter 528. In the end, Yin Jian was dragged out by Chu Ning and the rest. Chu Ning even said that they had won the competition so easily today, because of Yin Jian. If it were not for Yin Jian, how could they have won the competition so quickly? In the end, Yin Jian could not stand Chu Ning's pestering, and went with her. F Province was indeed the most convenient seaside town in Z country for trade. It was crowned with the title of City of the Sea. Even the largest downtown area in F Province, the street named Upper Street, was a treasure trove of crowded people and vehicles. F Province was the model of the largest area in the country. Here, ordinary families could already live a well-off life. Therefore, it was not rare to see cars on the streets here. All in all, compared to Longmen City, this place in F Province was a few notches higher. Although Chu Ning usually looked wild, she was a proper girl. Therefore, she began shopping for clothes and shoes stores as soon as she stepped onto the streets. Lu Shiyan and the rest were patient as they waited for Chu Ning to try on one piece of clothing after another. Yin Jian, on the other hand, leaned against the pillar in the store and closed her eyes to rest. Let's go over there and have a look. Just as Chu Ning was about to walk towards a trendy shoe store, with a large pile of newly bought clothes for Chu Xiangnan to carry, Chu Xiangnan stopped her in his tracks. Chu Xiangnan could not hold it in any longer, and called out to Chu Ning helplessly. Hey Chu Ning, that's enough. Look at me, I can't carry it anymore. Are you going to put the stuff on my head if you buy more? Also, aren't you embarrassed to make everyone wait for you to buy things? Chu Ning liked to let Chu Xiangnan carry her new clothes and shoes when she picked them out. Haha. Chu Ning looked at him awkwardly, and pursed her lips before smiling apologetically. I couldn't help myself. So, where are we going next? Chu Ning asked with a grin. I heard that there's a martial arts school in F Province. It's the biggest one in Country Z. At the same time, it's equipped with the most advanced equipment. Shall we go there and have a look? Fang Xiaoran, who had been quiet, suggested. Is there really such a good place? Hee, then of course we have to go and take a look. As soon as Chu Xiangnan heard this, he immediately agreed. As he spoke, Chu Xiangnan also asked for everyone's opinion. What about you guys? Do you guys want to go? I think it's feasible. Lu Shiyan was also very interested. Then, they all felt that there was no problem, and turned to ask Yin Jian for her opinion. I'm going. Yin Jian replied with a single word. Let's go then. Chu Xiangnan was the first to run forward with his hands full of Chu Ning's shopping bags. After asking around, they arrived at F Province's most famous dojo, Yongchun Dojo. The Eternal Spring Hall had been located here for 300 to 400 years, and the hall master of the Eternal Spring Hall was said to be the 5th-generation successor of Eternal Spring. His strength was quite astonishing. Furthermore, the Yongchun Pavilion had a very high reputation in the area. Yin Jian and the others casually asked passers-by about the location of the Yongchun Pavilion. Following the directions of the passers-by, Yin Jian and the others quickly arrived at the main entrance of the Yongchun Dojo. The main entrance of the Yongchun Dojo was at least 10 meters tall. It was indeed not a joke to say that it was the biggest martial arts school in Country Z. Chapter 529. The receptionist's polite greeting was refreshing to Chu Ning and the others. No, it's our first time here, Chu Xiangnan said to the receptionist before anyone else could. The long-term members were the kind of people who often came to the Yongchun Pavilion and had a membership card in hand. Would you like to apply for a long-term membership card? The receptionist asked again. No need. This time, it was Yin Jian who refused. They would not stay in F Province for a long time. They only came to F Province this time because of the challenge from battling Dragon Squad. In short, Yin Jian and the others did not need the card. Even if they applied for it now, they would not be able to use it the next time they came here. Okay. The receptionist nodded and registered Yun Jian and the others. There was a lot of equipment for practicing martial arts in the dojo. There were also specialized martial arts instructors in the dojo to teach the students. Therefore, the dojo was the first choice for young people to practice martial arts. Of course, there was no shortage of young people who learned martial arts to show off. The fees in the dojo were based on the time period. There were also long-term members who paid tuition fees according to the semester or year. For people like Yun Jian and the others who would only come here once, they would naturally pay by the hour. This was the rule of the Yongchun dojo. As for other dojos, their fees might be different from the Yongchun dojo. After discussing, Lu Shiyun and the others decided to stay in the dojo for 2 hours. Chu Xiangnan was a rich man, and his family did not lack money. When it was time to pay, Chu Xiangnan immediately paid everyone's fees first. Knowing that Chu Xiangnan did not care about the money, the others did not reject his kindness. After the registration, Yun Jian followed the 6 of them past the front desk and walked into a small semicircular door in an antique building. When they were at the front desk earlier, they could not see the interior of the dojo. Behind the front desk, there was a large screen that blocked the inside of the dojo. They could only hear the sound of the young people training in the dojo. As soon as Yun Jian and the others entered the museum, the first thing they saw was a large mirror that had been transformed from a wall in front of them. On the left side of the museum, there was a large red Wu character. In the middle of the hall stood a large group of teenagers who were about the same age as Yun Jian. Standing in front of the teenagers was a martial arts instructor in his 40s. He had a square face and single eyelids. He was practicing martial arts. There were many hanging sandbags in the hall, as well as some equipment that would be used during martial arts practice. When he saw Yun Jian's group of 7, the martial arts instructor, who was standing in front of the group of teenagers, immediately stopped what he was doing. He looked at Yun Jian's group of 7 and asked, "Are you new here?" "Yes." Chu Xiangnan, who was standing close to the martial arts instructor, nodded blankly. "My surname is Su. You can call me Coach Su." Coach Su shouted. Then he motioned to Yun Jian and the others. "Come here and follow me." As soon as Coach Su finished speaking, Chu Xiangnan and Chu Ning ran over excitedly. Yun Jian followed them and stood next to the group of teenagers in a corner. Learning was something that Yun Jian paid great attention to in her previous life. Coach Su was undoubtedly the owner of Yongchun Dojo, who was also known as the 5th-generation successor of Yongchun. After teaching a set of fist techniques, Coach Su asked everyone to sit down in a circle. "Have you all learned this set of fist techniques? Now is the time to test your fist techniques. Later, come up one by one and spar with me in pairs," Coach Su said to everyone with his arms crossed in front of his chest. As soon as Coach Su finished speaking, a shout came from the entrance. "Uncle, we're here." The rather familiar female voice made Yun Jian, who was sitting in a circle with the rest of the group, feel her eyes twitch. Chapter 530. A group of people walked in through the small semicircular entrance that Yun Jian and the rest had entered through earlier. Leading them was Yu Luo, whom they had met in the military, and the 6 people beside her were members of Battling Dragons. When the plump Lin Quan walked in through the semicircular entrance, he was stuck for a moment. Over 200 kilograms of fat was indeed shocking. However, Lin Quan soon came in through the entrance, all of them following behind Yu Luo. Yun Jian had clearly noticed that Yu Luo had called Coach Su uncle earlier. Coach Su was Yu Luo's uncle? Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. This was probably the situation they were in now. Yun Jian's lips twitched as she glanced at Chu Ning and the rest, who had noticed Yu Luo and the rest as well. However, since Yun Jian and the rest were sitting among the youths, Yu Luo and the rest had not noticed them yet. However, Chu Ning and the rest did not look too happy. Gu Junjian and Ai Guoshuan were not on good terms, which meant that Yu Luo and the rest were destined to be enemies when they ran into each other in the future. Moreover, Yu Luo and the rest had to resort to underhanded means to win when the 2 teams were in a PK. As a result, Yun Jian and her friends disliked them even more. "It's Miss Yu. Our Coach Su is her uncle. Also, I heard that Miss Yu is a candidate for the Advanced Special Forces. Do you know Battling Dragons who arrested a high-ranking member of a black market gang some time ago? She's one of them. Once Yu Luo and the rest appeared, the youths who were sitting in a circle on the floor immediately started discussing excitedly. They looked as if they had seen their idols. In fact, Battling Dragons formed by Yu Luo and the rest had become the idol of the youths in F province. Be it in school or in society, everyone was talking about how amazing Battling Dragons was. They had such achievements at such a young age. Moreover, Yu Luo and the rest did not hide what they had done at all. They would even exaggerate it, so that everyone would know about their achievements. That was their ultimate goal. Therefore, Yu Luo and the rest had become idols in many people's hearts. Advanced Special Forces candidate? Wow, how amazing! Someone immediately chimed in, and there was no lack of envy and admiration in their words. Yu Luo and everyone else in Battling Dragons held their heads high as they felt the crowd's admiration. Yu Luo's lips curled into a smile as she boldly scanned the entire place. She looked at the group of youths sitting on the ground with disdain, as if she was looking at ants. Coach Su looked at his niece Yu Luo. Before he could say anything, he saw his niece sweep her gaze across the group of people. Her gaze suddenly locked onto a slender figure. Yu Luo pointed at the slim figure and exclaimed, "You, why are you here?" After being called out, Yun Jian did not flinch. She casually put her hands in her trouser pockets and slowly stood up. Yun Jian looked straight at Yu Luo. Seeing Yu Luo's murderous glare, Yun Jian merely smiled and threatened, "So why can't I be here?" Chapter 531. Xiao Luo, she's a guest. How can you do this? Coach Su frowned and said when he saw Yu Luo pointing at the door to chase Yun Jian away. Coach Su's impression of his niece had always been that she was immature. However, it was undeniable that Yu Luo was very talented. She could pick up any hint he gave her in martial arts. Therefore, no matter how much Coach Su disliked Yu Luo, he still took her in as his disciple. Yu Luo pointed at Yun Jian and yelled at her as soon as she entered. This was his dojo after all, so even Coach Su could not help but reprimand Yu Luo. "Uncle, she has a grudge against me. Stay out of this." Yu Luo already saw Yun Jian as her enemy and hated her to the core. Therefore, she did not hold back even in front of everyone. Yu Luo then led a few members of Battling Dragons to Yun Jian's side. She pointed at Yun Jian and taunted, "All right, you're not leaving, are you? Fine. We're no match for you in the military. Do you dare to fight me now?" Coach Su's eyelids twitched at Yu Luo's blatant taunt. He was very clear about his niece's ability. Other things aside, Yu Luo was quite powerful in terms of strength alone. Even Coach Yu had to admit that it was only a matter of time before his niece surpassed him in strength. "Come on. Let's fight. Let's fight. Let's fight." It was a rare opportunity to witness the ability of the legendary Yu Luo from Battling Dragons. The group of youths were all excited and cheered excitedly. When Yun Jian stood up, Chu Ning and the others were already standing behind Yun Jian. At this moment, Yun Jian was looking straight at Yu Luo, without flinching in the face of the provocation from the group, led by Yu Luo. "You want me to fight you?" Yun Jian raised her voice. Yu Luo listened to the jeers around her, and her uncle Coach Su's worried face, afraid that she would hurt Yun Jian. She replied arrogantly to Yun Jian's words, "Yes, do you dare? You don't deserve to fight me." Yun Jian smiled contemptuously. She glanced at Yu Luo and waved at Chu Xiangnan and the others, indicating that they should leave with her. It wasn't that Yun Jian didn't dare, but that Yu Luo didn't deserve it. Just as Yun Jian was about to walk around Yu Luo and leave, Yu Luo suddenly stopped her. Yu Luo was enraged by Yun Jian's words. She stopped Yun Jian and said in a frivolous tone, "Do you think our dojo is a place you can come and go as you please?" Yun Jian's sharp eyes flashed at Yu Luo's words. "Wow, Miss Yu is so domineering. She's indeed my idol. I admire her so much." A guy looked at Yu Luo with admiration. "I'm about to become her fan." Another boy said exaggeratedly while covering his face. The atmosphere was at its most tense moment. Just when the atmosphere between the two sides was extremely stiff, a group of people suddenly rushed in through the semicircular door. This group of people who had just rushed in were all dressed in black, and their faces were all covered with black veils. What was more frightening was that they all had pistols in their hands. The group of youths sitting in a circle on the ground panicked when they saw them. They were scared half to death by the group of people who barged into the dojo with guns. Coach Su, Yu Luo, and the others were shocked by the sudden turn of events. Chapter 532. A hijacking. At that moment, the same image appeared in everyone's minds. It was a man in black who had entered the room with a gun. Could it be an assassin organization? Yu Luo, who had been aggressive earlier, turned pale with fright when she saw the armed men in black. Everyone in Battling Dragon's expression changed instantly. No one had expected such a turn of events. Instructor Su frowned. He was obviously shocked by the turn of events. He had never expected his dojo to be invaded by a group of unknown criminals. Although he did not know their intentions, he could tell from their tone that they were up to no good. However, it was the first time the group of youths in the dojo had encountered such a situation. In everyone's opinion, this kind of danger could only happen in movies. Since when had they encountered such a frightening situation in real life? Therefore, all the youths present screamed uncontrollably in fear. Yun Jian's gaze sharpened. She did not expect the men in black to suddenly barge into the dojo. Instructor Su gulped. He was the first to realize that something was amiss when one of the men in black pointed a gun at him and threatened him. Quiet, everyone, quiet down. Instructor Su yelled at the crowd. However, none of the youths present had ever encountered such a situation. They were all running away in fear. Who would listen to Instructor Su? Bang, bang, bang. The man in black was enraged. He grabbed his gun and fired at the three youths who were running away in all directions. At the sound of the gunshots, three youths fell to the ground immediately. Then, a stream of blood flowed out from the three living creatures. They were dead. Seeing this scene, everyone was so scared that they shut their mouths and found a corner to hide. Run again. This will be your fate. The man in black with the gun did not seem to realize that he had just killed three people. He smiled cruelly as if human lives were worthless. His eerie eyes sent chills down everyone's spines. Even Yu Luo, who was full of vigor earlier, restrained her aura and dared not make a sound. Beep, beep, beep. At that moment, the sound of police sirens came from outside the dojo. It was obvious that the sirens were aimed at the men in black. Everyone quickly realized that they might have become hostages. This group of black-clothed men could very well be the repeat offenders of some criminal organization. After all, how could a normal person carry a pistol? Seeing that no one dared to make a sound, the man in black swept the gun in his hand across the crowd again and shouted, "Put your hands on your heads and squat down." Everyone was so scared that their legs trembled, but they didn't dare to disobey the black-clothed man's words. They all crouched down with their hands on their heads. Even Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, and the others did as they were told. After all, under such circumstances, if he didn't do as he was told, he would be the one to die. A head-on clash wouldn't work. Yu Luo and the others, including Coach Su, dared not say anything. These black-clothed men had just killed three people. 3 human lives had been taken just like that. But no one dared to make a sound, because everyone was afraid of the gun in the man's hand. Yin Jian's eyes flashed. She followed the crowd and squatted down, holding her head. Before the situation was clear, it was best to remain silent. After everyone had squatted down with their hands on their heads, the police's loudspeaker was heard from outside the dojo. Those inside, put down the hostages and surrender immediately. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless. Hostages. This group of black-clothed men was obviously a criminal organization. Chapter 533. After suppressing everyone at the scene, the man in black who had shot and killed the 3 youths turned to look at the man in black standing beside him. He said in English, "Jay, go out and tell those stupid policemen that if they dare to come in, there are almost 100 people in this martial arts club. They can forget about leaving this place alive." The man in black called Jay nodded and left after receiving the order. Yin Jian lowered her eyes and pursed her lips. From the way the men in black spoke and behaved, they were foreigners. The faces of the men in black were covered with a black veil, only revealing a pair of dark eyes. Hence, no one could tell that they were foreigners at first glance. Yun Jian quickly came to a conclusion. The reason the men in black had rushed to the dojo to kidnap them was because there were too many people here. In the dojo, there were almost 100 students under Coach Su alone. If the men in black wanted to escape from the police, it would be better to take a group of hostages than 1 or 2 hostages. If they took 1 or 2 hostages, the police might even send someone over to rescue them. However, if they took a group of hostages and the police wanted to rescue them, it would cause a huge commotion. Moreover, if all the hostages died, it would cause a huge commotion in society. Hence, even if the police wanted to rescue them, they would have to think twice. The man in black called Jay soon returned from outside. He stood in front of the man, who had just killed the 3 youths, and was also the leader of the men in black. He said to him in English, "The policemen are scared but they didn't retreat. We should inform the headquarters and ask for help." From the sound of it, this group of black-clothed men was still organized. Yun Jian stared at the floor. Yu Luo and the rest were so scared that they did not make a sound. So what if they were advanced special forces candidates? They were just candidates, but the other party had guns. When the black-clothed man called Hertz heard this, he took out a mobile phone from his pocket and dialed a number. No one dared to make a sound. It was eerily quiet. The only sound that could be heard was the beeping of the phone, which resounded in the surroundings. There were also the corpses of the 3 youths who had just been killed, causing everyone present to tremble in fear. Everyone was trembling uncontrollably in fear and horror. Facing such a horrible criminal, even Coach Su did not dare to make a sound. He hugged his head and squatted on the ground. Even if he moved, he was afraid that the group of men in black would see him and kill him like how they killed the 3 youths. At this moment the call went through. The man in black named Hercules spoke into the phone. "I'm Hercules. I'm on a mission in Country Z. A group of police officers found me and surrounded a martial arts club. Quickly come to my aid." "Got it." A crisp sound came from the other end of the phone. And then the call was hung up. After he hung up the phone, he put it back into his pocket. Just as he put it into his pocket, the back of his tightly wrapped hand was suddenly exposed. Yun Jian happened to catch a glimpse of the back of Hector's hand. He saw that there was a golden rose imprinted on the back of Hertz's hand. The mark of the rose seemed to have been deeply imprinted with something. The golden flower looked particularly conspicuous. Yun Jian's pupils suddenly shrank. Chapter 534. Every member of an assassin or secret agent organization would have their own unique mark. The Kosha mercenaries had a skull mark. The Inferno Ring was an assassin organization, second only to the Inhun and Kosha mercenaries. The reason why Yun Jian knew that the mark on the back of his hand was the Inferno Ring was because she had done her research on it. Ever since she found out that the organization that killed her brother in her previous life was the Inferno Ring, an assassin organization second only to the Inhun and Kosha mercenaries, Yun Jian had been collecting information on the Inferno Ring. Now that her brother was back, Yun Jian would not stop there. She had always been a vengeful person who would repay a debt of gratitude. She was very protective and would not allow anyone to challenge her bottom line. Her brother was her bottom line, and the Inferno Ring was the needle that had touched her bottom line. Previously, Yun Jian had not taken action against the Inferno Ring because she had not gotten rid of the old Kosha mercenaries. With the Kosha mercenaries' current situation, it was not wise to go against the Inferno Ring. If they were not careful, they could be wiped out by the Inferno Ring. Now that the old Kosha mercenaries had been eliminated, the mercenary group was still undergoing major changes. After all, the old men's influence was not to be underestimated. Snake, Lizard and Tiger, Leopard had been very busy recently. Going against the Inferno Ring under such circumstances would not benefit the Kosha mercenaries. That was why Yun Jian had not taken action. Now that her brother was back, the image of her brother before he died in her previous life was deeply imprinted in Yun Jian's heart. She would make the Inferno Ring pay the price. Perhaps Yun Jian now knew that the Kosha mercenaries could not go against the Inferno Ring. But since the Inferno Ring had sent themselves to her doorstep, she would not hold back. the Inferno Ring dared to hurt her brother, so she would give them a New Year's gift in return. After Hertz received the call from the organization and hid his phone in his pocket, Yunjian suddenly stood up slowly. She stared at Hertz and the men in black from the Inferno Ring with a murderous look in her eyes. At the same time, Yunjian stood up in front of everyone's fearful eyes. She looked at Hertz and said with a tinge of anger, "You are from the Inferno Ring? Did she want to die?" Everyone present cursed in their hearts. Originally, the group of black-clothed men had gradually shifted their attention away, which meant that the people present would not be killed like the three youths who had just died. In the end, Yunjian suddenly stood up and yelled at he who had just killed someone in a furious tone. Was she tired of living? Or what? And now, the group of black-clothed men had turned their attention to them. She wanted to die, but she didn't want to implicate them. Yu Luo watched in shock as Yunjian stood up. Coach Su also looked at Yunjian in fear. Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, and the rest were also puzzled, but they looked at her worriedly. Everyone present turned to look at Yunjian. Hertz and the men in black shifted their attention to her as well. "Little girl? Haha, you want to die?" Hertz said to Yunjian in Mandarin. He raised his gun, intending to kill Yunjian with one shot. "Answer me, are you from the Inferno Ring?" Yunjian raised her voice and shouted. She suddenly raised her voice and asked Hertz to pull the trigger. Hertz's hand that was about to point the gun at Yunjian paused. "Haha, since you know who we are, you must die." Hertz suddenly laughed. He was about to pull the trigger and point the gun at Yunjian. "I'll return the same sentence to you. You from the Inferno Ring must die." Yunjian's eyes turned sharp as she said that. There was a flash of light. The people present who did not fully understand felt their hearts clench tightly. Chapter 535. Hertz's hand that was about to pull the trigger trembled when Yunjian's murderous aura flashed across his face. Hertz was an assassin from the Inferno Ring. Although he was not on the international ranking of assassins and secret agents, he was quite famous internationally. As an assassin from the Inferno Ring, when had he ever been threatened by an unknown little girl like this? If he was threatened by a little girl today, wouldn't he become a laughingstock if word got out? Hence, when Hertz looked at Yunjian again, his expression turned vicious. Interesting. Interesting. I didn't expect such an interesting little girl like you to exist in such a lousy place. Hertz was in no hurry to kill Yunjian. He laughed maniacally. His rough voice with standard Chinese pronunciation sent chills down everyone's spines. No matter what everyone thought, he had just killed 3 people. He had killed 3 living beings. This was an ironclad fact. He killed people like they were cutting grass. Hence, everyone present felt a sense of resistance and fear towards Hertz. Almost everyone was disgusted by Yunjian's actions. Yunjian's actions had attracted the attention of the men in black. However, at this moment, everyone realized one thing. They were done for. The men in black had guns. No matter how powerful Yunjian was, could she be faster than bullets? Dream on. Yunjianer. Chu Ning watched worriedly as Yunjian stood up to face Hertz. Although she was also terrified, she wanted to take the risk of reaching out to pull Yunjian away from Hertz and his men's attention. No one dared to make a sound in front of a gun. Yunjian avoided Chu Ning's pull. Almost as soon as Hertz said that she was interesting, she slowly walked toward Hertz and his men, under the horrified gazes of Yu Luo and the others. TSK, since you're asking for it, don't blame me then. It was rare for Hertz to meet such an interesting person. He cracked his neck and laughed weirdly. Then he raised his gun with a sinister smile. Hertz didn't kill Yunjian, because he swore that the girl in front of him wasn't a threat to him at all. When Yunjian walked towards him, Her felt that although this young girl was interesting, there was no need to keep a disobedient person around. Bang! Under the panicked gazes of Yu Luo, Coach Su, and the group of teenagers, Hertz fired a shot at Yunjian. This shot caused the hearts of everyone present to tighten. Chu Ning and the others watched as Yunjian walked towards he. She had no intention of dodging the muzzle of the gun, so they were even more terrified. In the next second, Hull fired his pistol. Chu Ning and the rest were shocked. When they regained their senses, they screamed, "Yunjian! Could it be that something really happened?" Yunjian was so powerful. But no matter how fast she was, could she be faster than a bullet? Dead. The scene of Yun Jian being shot in the head and blood splattering everywhere immediately appeared in everyone's mind. Everyone was terrified. However, all they saw was, just as Jie was laughing, anticipating that Yun Jian would be killed by him on the spot, he pulled the trigger. The moment the bullet flew out of its shell, Yun Jian threw herself to the ground at the speed of a racing car, and dodged the bullet by a hair's breadth. However, as she dodged Hertz's shot and threw herself to the ground, a spinning butterfly knife flew out from her arms. Hertz, who was standing far away, was obviously caught off guard. By the time Hertz reacted and hurriedly dodged, the butterfly knife had already shot into his left eyeball. Ah! Hertz howled instantly. Everyone looked over and saw that Hertz's left eyeball had been pierced deeply by the butterfly knife. The eyeball exploded and blood splattered everywhere. Seeing this, everyone present, including Yu Luo and Coach Su, was completely shocked and terrified. Chapter 536. Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events. In their opinion, a person who could dodge bullets should be a deity, right? How could an ordinary person dodge bullets? However, Yun Jian's actions just now had everyone panicking. While she dodged the bullets, she threw a flying dagger at Hertz's eyeball at the same time. His eyeball exploded. Such a cruel method. And the speed at which Yun Jian threw the flying dagger was so accurate. Not a single bit off. How could everyone present not be dumbfounded? Yu Luo and the rest had their mouths agape as they watched Yun Jian's strange moves in shock. Coach Su and the group of teenagers present were also completely dumbfounded. As for Chu Ning and the rest, although they had some understanding of Yun Jian's ability, Yun Jian's move just now completely overturned their understanding of Yun Jian. What was ability? That was what was considered ability. Ouch! Hertz squatted down slowly with his left eye covered. He let out a heart-wrenching scream, and the group of men in black behind him pointed their guns at Yun Jian. However, after Hertz's shooting and Yun Jian's backhand flying dagger, the men in black did not dare to make a move easily. Yun Jian stood in front of the group of men in black. She did not move an inch, and was not afraid of the guns pointed at her. Kill her! Kill her! Hertz covered his blown eyeball. He did not pull the butterfly knife out easily. Instead, he endured the tearing pain and spoke to the other men in black. You've dirted my knife. Just as Hertz stared at Yun Jian with hatred in his single eye, and covered his blown left eye with one hand, Yun Jian's faint voice was heard again. Yu Luo and the others were struck with fear again, when they saw how Yun Jian could still spit out such words calmly in the face of the guns pointed at her. At this moment, they realized something. This Yun Jian was not human at all. These men in black were criminals. Criminals with pistols in their hands. As for Yun Jian, she was not afraid at all. Not only was she not afraid, but she even retaliated by blinding one of the criminal's eyes. She even dared to say that he had dirted her knife. Did she not know that this would agitate the other party? If the guns in the hands of these men in black went off accidentally, everyone present would not be able to leave alive. Ah! Kill! Kill! Kill this little girl. Go to hell! It was Hertz's first time being humiliated like this. He could only stare at Yun Jian with a single eye while his mouth was already growling menacingly. Yes. Hertz's subordinate, who was Jay's head, nodded. After that, Jay raised his gun and aimed it at Yun Jian. Bang! Jay fired a shot. However, the moment Jay fired, he shifted the gun aimed at Yun Jian and aimed it at Hertz's heart. Bang! With a gunshot, Hertz was killed on the spot by Jia. The moment he fell, Hertz looked at his subordinate Jia in shock. He could not believe it, but he used the last bit of strength in his life to yell at Jia. I'll kill her and take over your position. So Hertz, please die. Jay looked at Hertz mercilessly as he fell to the ground. Hertz fell to the ground and died on the spot. Everyone present was shocked again. This group of people would actually kill each other. Yun Jian only narrowed her eyes, but the murderous intent in her eyes was even more obvious. Hertz was not as courageous as Jay. Chapter 537. To everyone, Jay, who had killed his comrade, was even scarier than Hertz. How could he kill his comrade? What kind of heart did he have to be so cold-blooded? Yunjian. Chu Ning was anxious for Yunjian. She was afraid that something would happen to Yunjian. She was so anxious that her heart was trembling. It's okay. Yunjian is so powerful. She can handle it herself. We can't go out. Otherwise, we'll be a burden to her and mess up her plans. Chu Xiangnan did not know when he grabbed Chu Ning's hand. He patted it to comfort her. Afraid that she would be a burden to Yunjian, Chu Ning nodded at Chu Xiangnan. However, Chu Ning was sizing up Yunjian from afar. On the other end, Yunjian stood where she was and stared at Jia with her seductive eyes. She did not make a sound after hearing Jia's brazen words just now. Jia did not dare to act rashly. After all, Yunjian's display of skill just now was too impressive. Hertz's shot was something that even a third-rate assassin could barely dodge, or even get hit. However, Yunjian had dodged it. More importantly, when Yunjian dodged Hertz's shot, she threw out a butterfly knife. The butterfly knife accurately pierced Hertz's left eye. To be honest, if Yunjian had not pierced Hertz's left eye and caused Hertz to fly into a rage, Jay would not have had the chance to kill Hertz and replace him. Yunjian was not enraged by Jay's words. Her expression did not change at all. While Jay was on guard, Yunjian suddenly raised her right leg. Jay was shocked by Yunjian's movement, and immediately became alert. He did not forget that Hertz's left eye was pierced by Yunjian, because he had underestimated Yunjian. This young girl, just based on the previous few points, she was not someone to be trifled with. Yunjian, whom Jay thought was a trick, walked toward the dead Hertz while Jay, the men in black, and Yu Luo and the rest looked on suspiciously. When Jay saw Yunjian walking toward him, he subconsciously moved aside and gave way to Hertz's body. Yunjian's skills just now had all of them spooked. Yunjian walked to Hertz's body and stepped on his body mercilessly before everyone's eyes. She then pulled out her butterfly knife from Hertz's left eye. Yunjian reached into her pocket and took out a few pieces of tissue to wipe the butterfly knife on her hand naturally. So filthy, Yunjian commented faintly. At that moment, Yunjian was facing Jay and the rest. Jay wanted to use this opportunity to shoot Yunjian. I hope your blood doesn't dirty my knife, Yunjian said in her angelic voice while facing Jay and the rest. What? When Jay heard that, his hand that was holding the gun froze. After wiping the butterfly knife, Yunjian turned around slowly. In the next second, Yu Luo and the rest saw something flash before their eyes. She moved. Yunjian's figure flashed. She fell and rolled. In an instant, she was beside Jay and the men in black. A massacre ensued. Her silhouette was like a specter. Wherever she passed, a man in black would fall to the ground before he could react in time. She was a true killer. She killed people like flies. Yunjian weaved through the crowd, leaving no survivors wherever the butterfly knife in her hand touched. Jay only recovered from his shock when all the men in black behind him fell to the ground. Chapter 538. The girl's tall and slender figure became clear at that moment. In the dark dojo, Yunjian's tall and slender figure and her long, flowing ponytail stood out. Yunjian, on the other hand, struck fear and shock into Yu Luo and the rest. She had killed someone. Once she attacked, the men in black did not even know how they died. Could this be her true strength? Yu Luo, Lin Quan, and the rest felt a surge of fear and shock in their hearts. Although they were advanced special forces, if they were asked to kill someone, it would be a completely different matter from carrying out a mission. Although these criminals deserved to be killed, these criminals had killed people in the dojo and threatened the police. As an advanced special forces soldier, Yunjian had the right to execute these criminals on the spot. However, a normal person, especially a third-year middle school student like Yunjian, did not show any fear after killing these criminals with her own hands. Instead, she pressed on. If it had been Yu Luo was sure that her legs would have turned to jelly under the other party's threat. Yu Luo's battling dragons was rumored to be powerful, but they had a bottom line after all. However, Yunjian crossed the bottom line again and again. She was so mysterious that no one could see through her. Jia was completely terrified when he saw this. He was standing beside the men in black who had been with him. Now, he was the only one left alive out of the dozen of them. This little girl had killed someone right in front of him. His men did not even have time to raise their guns and counterattack before they were killed by her. Was she even human? For the first time, Jie felt fear from the bottom of his heart. Your turn. Yin Jian extended her butterfly knife and aimed it at Jie. The gun in Ming Jie's hand looked more convincing, while Yin Jian only had a butterfly knife in her hand. Gun and knife. Even an idiot would know who was faster. However, everyone was leaning towards Yin Jian's knife. Yin Jian's moves earlier made everyone feel that she would not lose. She would not lose either. The Inferno Ring has no grudge against you. Little girl, why do you want to kill me? Jie's hand holding the gun trembled slightly, but he still looked at Yin Jian, as if he was trying to buy time so that he could live. No one wanted to die. If there was a chance to live, who would want to die? Grudge. Yin Jian flicked the butterfly knife lightly, looking down at it. The scene of her brother being beheaded in her past life, and his dried tears flashed in her mind. It was not that Yin Jian was unwilling to walk out of her past life, but her character's character. Her Xiao Yunju had been treated so cruelly. He was only 8 years of age. Although Yin Jian's head back, Yin Jian's hand, and on the other hand, Yun's of Yin Yun's aunts. For example, Xiao Yunju never dared to sleep alone. When he wanted to sleep with her, he was dragged away by Ce. Ce treated Xiao Yunju well, so Xiao Yunju relied on him. To an 8-year-old boy, all of this was caused by Xiao Yunju's SSS. Xiao Yunju was killed cruelly. It was not as if he did not have memories of his past life. How could the word grudge describe the trauma that followed him for life? The Inferno Ring and the Kosha mercenaries are irreconcilable enemies. I, the killing god, will destroy all of you even if I have to overturn everything. Yin Jian's gaze sharpened as she suddenly spoke. Kill, kill. Jie gritted his teeth. Then he suddenly thought of something. Kill and kill? Kill, kill. Jie was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he suddenly remembered Yin Jian's identity. He stared at Yin Jian with his eyes wide open. Chapter 539. Jie was dead. Everyone present was horrified. But they were even more horrified when they saw Yin Jian killing the armed criminals with a knife. Yin Jian had already walked forward to pick up her butterfly knife. She took out a tissue from her pocket and wiped it gently. Chu Ning and the others were much less shocked than Yu Luo and the rest. After all, Yin Jian had single-handedly annihilated an entire gang back then. It was comparable to what she was doing now. Moreover, it was a gang back then, so it was natural that they had guns and sticks. If Yin Jian could wipe out such a gang, what more now? Chu Ning stood up immediately when she saw that Yin Jian was fine. Ow, 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 be gentle. At this moment, Chu Xiangnan, who had been comforting Chu Ning and holding her hand, was brought to his feet as well. Chu Xiangnan did not react in time, and was pulled up by Chu Ning, so he howled. Why are you holding my hand? Shameless Chu Xiangnan, how dare you? Chu Ning only realized that Chu Xiangnan had been holding her hand earlier. Chu Ning jumped up and gave Chu Xiangnan a chestnut as she spoke. Chu Xiangnan howled again when Chu Ning knocked his head. It was a sense of relief after a disaster, especially when the group of criminals were killing people wantonly just now, and they were faced with gun after gun. Everyone present could have died at any time, but someone suddenly jumped out and saved them all. At this moment, everyone did not have to worry about being killed by the group of criminals just now. It was a sense of relief when one realized that they were still alive after a disaster. Those who had not experienced it would not understand it. Yin Jian, that's great, you're fine. Chu Ning jumped up and knocked Chu Xiangnan on the head before running to Yin Jian's side. Yin Jian's back was facing everyone. When she turned around after wiping her butterfly knife, her eyes were still frighteningly cold. Chu Ning trembled slightly, but she quickly calmed down. Amen. Yin Jian nodded at Chu Ning as she recollected her viciousness. Chu Xiangnan, Lu Shiyin, Jiang Weiwei, Fang Xiaoran, and the rest who stood up one after another, as well as Yu Luo and the rest who had yet to recover from their fear, stood up one after another. After Lu Shiyin, Jiang Weiwei, and the rest stood up, they followed Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan to Yin Jian. Haha, Yin Jian, you were so cool just now. I admire you so much. Chu Xiangnan stood where he was and imitated Yun Jian's movements. He looked at Yun Jian with a grin, looking spirited. His face that could be considered handsome was instantly filled with pride. Yun Jian was a member of Team Monarch. By the way, Yun Jian, why was that guy so scared when he heard that your codename is Slashing God? Heh, has your Slashing God reputation spread so far and wide? After imitating Yun Jian's actions exaggeratedly, Chu Xiangnan looked at Yun Jian curiously and asked. Yun Jian glanced at Chu Xiangnan's comically handsome face. She suddenly had an illusion that Chu Xiangnan's comical face was not worthy of his handsome face. Take a guess. Yun Jian forced a smile and turned to walk out of the dojo. Is it because your Slashing God codename sounds better? That can't be right. My codename is Thunder. Thunder, thunder, thunder. No matter how it sounds cooler than yours. Haha. Chu Xiangnan praised himself for a while. Chapter 540. Oh, what's wrong? I didn't say anything wrong. Chu Ning, your codename is Chi-Chi, Chi-Chi-Chi-Chi. That sounds like osmanthus. That's what I call rustic. Chu Xiangnan was indignant as he dragged Chu Ning into it. This time Chu Ning was furious. She jumped up and slapped Chu Xiangnan's head a few times before she stopped. Poor Chu Xiangnan opened his mouth aggrievedly, but dared not say anything in the end. Yun Jian, where are you going? Jiang Weiwei noticed Yun Jian's movement as Chu Ning spoke to Chu Xiangnan. Yun Jian was walking out at that moment. Jiang Weiwei could not help but ask when she saw that. Jiang Weiwei was no longer the same as before. Even when facing the other members of Team Monarch, Jiang Weiwei had put away her initial arrogance. For some people, they would never realize their mistakes after doing something wrong. However, when some people realized that they had done something wrong, they would be able to quickly realize it and correct themselves under certain circumstances. Obviously, Jiang Weiwei belonged to the latter. In the beginning, she thought that she was born in a military family and was the most outstanding person in the team. Naturally, she would have some arrogance. However, after Yun Jian appeared, Jiang Weiwei realized that her previous behavior was wrong. Yun Jian's ability was above hers. More importantly, Yun Jian was never arrogant. She had never shown her ability to show off or for other reasons. Keep a low profile and do things in a high-profile manner. That was Yun Jian's principle. Obviously, Yun Jian's behavior had affected Jiang Weiwei. Even Yun Jian, who was many times more powerful than her, kept a low profile. What right did Jiang Weiwei have to be so high-profile? One good thing about Jiang Weiwei was that she would correct her mistakes. Just like how she was the strongest in the group, that was because when Jiang Weiwei was practicing, she would correct her mistakes. Once she realized her mistakes, she would correct them immediately. Jiang Weiwei's ability and this were inseparable. I'm going out for a walk. Yun Jian was already standing at the semicircular entrance of the dojo. She turned her body slightly, revealing her beautiful face as she replied to Jiang Weiwei. Then, Yun Jian's long and narrow eyelashes fluttered up and down. She pursed her lips and raised her eyebrows with a half-smile. If I don't go out, the sirens outside won't stop. At this time, the people in the martial arts hall also noticed that there were police cars parked outside the martial arts hall. Obviously, they were here to arrest the group of men in black who were killed by Yun Jian. At the same time, a policeman was holding a loudspeaker outside the martial arts center, shouting into the building over and over again. The people inside, put down the hostages and surrender immediately. As long as you let go of the hostages, the police will be lenient with you. This group of policemen who had surrounded the martial arts center, but didn't dare to act rashly because of the group of black-clothed men who had kidnapped the hostages, had already shouted through the loudspeaker until their mouths were dry. This group of policemen also requested backup from their superiors. Not long after, the city's Advanced Special Forces officer, Ai Guoxuan, arrived at the scene upon receiving the request for backup. Ai Guoxuan had received news that battling dragons, whom he had focused on training, was being held hostage in this martial arts center. So he had to come today even if he didn't want to. Not long after, even Gu Junjian, who was staying in the hotel, rushed to the scene upon receiving the news. A policeman who was in charge of maintaining order at the scene told Ai Guoxuan and Gu Junjian, who had just arrived, what had happened. Those criminals are all armed with guns. They fled into the martial arts center after being pursued by the police. There are so many hostages in the martial arts center, and some of the neighbors even heard gunshots from the martial arts center earlier. I'm afraid there's someone inside who's most likely dead. Someone's coming out. Oh my God, it's a little girl. A policeman who had been keeping an eye on the entrance shouted as he pointed at the entrance. Everyone was shocked and quickly turned their eyes to the entrance. Chapter 541. The moment they saw Yun Jian, the police officers surrounding the dojo, the officer who had explained the situation to Ai Guoxuan and Gu Junjian, as well as Gu Junjian and Ai Guoxuan, were all dumbfounded. Officer Bao, who was in charge of maintaining order at the scene, had been standing here ever since he had threatened them that the hostages inside would be killed if they dared to arrest the hostages. Moreover, the criminals inside were armed with guns. All of them were armed, so no matter how capable the hostages inside were, they would not be able to fight with guns. Officer Bao later received news that battling dragons, who were candidates for the Advanced Special Forces, and Team Monarch, who were official members of the Advanced Special Forces, were in the dojo. However, even if Team Monarch and Battling Dragons were in the dojo, they would still be suppressed. That was because the criminals were powerful. Officer Bao had no idea where the criminals had come from. By the time he led his men to surround them, they had already escaped. Before they escaped, the criminals had attempted to assassinate F Province's deputy mayor. However, the assassination failed, and the deputy mayor was only shocked. Fortunately, he was fine. After their whereabouts were discovered, the criminals fled all the way to the dojo and held everyone in the dojo hostage. The criminals must have known that they could not escape with the entire city under lockdown, so they fled into the dojo in an attempt to buy time. Officer Bao was no fool. He had already guessed that the criminals were most likely from an organization. He had planned to inform his superiors for backup, but he did not expect a young girl to appear at the dojo's entrance. Don't go there. Don't go there yet. It might be a trap. Officer Bao was about to lead his men to where Yun Jian was when Ai Guoxuan stopped them with a righteous expression. Ai Guoxuan was F Province's Advanced Special Forces officer after all, so Officer Bao stopped in his tracks when he heard him. It might be a trap. Otherwise, why would Yun Jian be the only one who came out? Where were the criminals? Ai Guoxuan did not think that Yun Jian could subdue the criminals alone. After all, those criminals had guns in their hands. No matter how powerful Yun Jian was, could she have dodged the gunman's pistol and subdued him? She wasn't one of those internationally renowned terrifying existences. Seeing that everyone had stopped in their tracks, Gu Junjian did not blame them. After all, in such a situation, the police naturally had to consider the bigger picture. Gu Junjian, on the other hand, walked towards Yun Jian. He knew Yun Jian very well. She was someone who had killed the 10th most powerful assassin in the world. How could those gunmen do anything to her? In fact, when Gu Junjian first heard that Yun Jian and the others were trapped in the dojo as hostages, his heart tightened. Although he had a son, his son did not like him. Therefore, Gu Junjian treated the 7 members of Team Monarch as his own children. Gu Junjian's first reaction when he heard the news was to explain to Qin Yiru if something happened to Yun Jian. From Qin Yiru's usual behavior, Gu Junjian could tell that Yun Yi and Yun Jian were Qin Yiru's roots and Qin Yiru's life. Based on this, Gu Junjian could not let anything happen to Yun Jian. The moment Gu Junjian walked towards Yun Jian walked towards them as well. Chapter 542. Even Officer Bao could not help frowning at Ai Guoxuan's action of drawing his gun. Regular police officers were not equipped with pistols, but as the leader of the Advanced Special Forces, Ai Guoxuan had the right to carry one. Even if Ai Guoxuan had the right to wear a pistol, he did not have the right to point it at Yun Jian. Yun Jian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier, but she was still a 15-year-old girl. Even if Yun Jian was really being controlled by the criminals, Ai Guoxuan did not have the right to point his gun at Yun Jian. Therefore, Ai Guoxuan's action made many of the policemen around them frown. Ai Guoxuan, what are you doing? Gu Junjian frowned when he saw Ai Guoxuan pointing his gun at Yun Jian. He then walked over and covered the muzzle of Ai Guoxuan's gun, preventing it from pointing at Yun Jian. Gu Junjian was furious. He knew that Ai Guoxuan had pointed his gun at Yun Jian purely out of hatred for him. However, Ai Guoxuan knew that he could not do anything to him, so he shifted his hatred to Yun Jian instead. What can I do? She must be being controlled by the criminals. Gu Junjian, you shouldn't be protecting her like this even if you can't bear to. Are you still a soldier? Use your brain, and you should know that she can't win against those criminals. I'm doing this for everyone's sake. Ai Guoxuan said righteously. Smack! Gu Junjian swung his arm and slapped the gun out of Ai Guoxuan's hand. He glared at Ai Guoxuan, the fury in his eyes unstoppable. Ai Guoxuan, don't you dare lay a finger on my people. Gu Junjian was trembling with rage. He took out his pistol from the holster by his waist and roared as he pointed the muzzle at Ai Guoxuan's head. Seeing this, Officer Bao started to tremble in fear. Two officers were arguing in front of him, and both of them were leaders of the advanced special forces. What should he do in such a situation? Yun Jian walked down the stairs and stood 10 meters away from Ai Guoxuan and Gu Junjian. Those people are already dead. Yun Jian was standing 10 meters away from Ai Guoxuan and Gu Junjian. Her gaze did not waver as she watched their actions, but she uttered the shocking words softly. Those people were already dead? Those bandits? How did he die? How could he be dead? Could it be? All the police officers at the scene, including Gu Junjian who had his gun pressed against Ai Guoxuan's head, as well as Ai Guoxuan and Officer Bao, turned to look at Yun Jian. They were shocked. There was a deathly silence. Ai Guoxuan was the first to react. He slapped away the gun that Gu Junjian had pressed against his head and grumbled at Yun Jian. Dead? How is this possible? Ai Guoxuan was about to dash toward the martial arts center. 2 steps later, Ai Guoxuan suddenly remembered something. He paused and raised his pistol again. His other hand rested on the handle as he cautiously made his way to the martial arts center. He still did not trust Yun Jian. Looking down, Yun Jian could not help feeling amused as she watched Ai Guoxuan walk past her gingerly. Let's go in too. Gu Junjian put his gun away and signaled to Officer Bao before the few of them walked into the martial arts center. Chapter 543. When Yun Jian followed Gu Junjian back to the dojo, she saw Ai Guoxuan standing dumbly by the semicircular door before she could even see it. Clack! The gun in Ai Guoxuan's hand fell to the ground. Ai Guoxuan was rooted to the spot. What's wrong? What's wrong? Officer Bao panicked. He quickly raised his baton with the other officers and stared at the door fearfully. They could only see the semicircular door from where they were, but not the dojo itself. Ai Guoxuan was standing at the semicircular door, where everyone could see him. Officer Bao thought that Ai Guoxuan had walked to the semicircular door and saw the criminals in the dojo waiting for him to walk right into the trap, causing Ai Guoxuan to drop his gun in fear. Officer Bao and the others raised their batons. They did not know Yun Jian well, and were skeptical of what Yun Jian had said earlier. Gu Junjian frowned, but he walked toward the semicircular door fearlessly. Yun Jian glanced at Officer Bao and the others who were too afraid to move forward and followed Gu Junjian. Seeing that Gu Junjian had moved forward, and there was no sound from Ai Guoxuan's side, Officer Bao and the rest frowned in suspicion before following Gu Junjian. With Gu Junjian in the lead, Yun Jian in the middle, and Officer Bao and the others at the back, the group soon arrived at the semicircular door. They peeked into the semicircular door. They would not have known if they had not peeked, but they were shocked when they did. When Officer Bao and the others saw the situation in the dojo behind the semicircular door, the batons in their hands dropped to the ground in fright. This. Officer Bao walked around them to the semicircular door. He looked inside the door and glanced left and right a few times. He was so shocked that he was at a loss for words. He could only use the word "this" to describe the situation. All the officers were rooted to the spot. More than 10 corpses were strewn all over the dojo. Among the corpses on the ground, 3 were youths while the rest were the criminals who had entered the dojo earlier. At this moment, apart from Hertz's corpse, the rest of the gangsters who were clearly dead on the ground all had the same fatal method of death, a slash to the throat. In other words, these corpses had been killed without any signs of struggle. Judging from this, how powerful must the person who had killed these criminals be? The people who had been held hostage were leaning against the corner of the dojo, each of them frozen in fear. It was obvious that they had yet to recover from the terror earlier. These criminals couldn't have been killed by them. Even Yu Luo, who was hiding in the corner, did not dare to stand up, let alone the rest of battling dragons. Coach Su had already stood up slowly. Chu Xiangnan's group of 6 stood not too far away from the dozens of criminals. Ai Guoxuan was so shocked by what he saw that he could not utter a single word. Officer Bao, on the other hand, pointed at the corpses on the ground and stammered, "WW, who killed them?" The question was directed at the group of people who were cowering in the corner. "Is this the answer you're looking for?" Just as Officer Bao spoke, a clear and refreshing voice was heard. Chapter 544. Yin Jian retracted the butterfly knife. She smiled and swung the butterfly knife a few times before keeping it in her pocket. This scene caused a wave of fear to surge in everyone's hearts. The most terrifying thing was not Yin Jian's nimble movements with the butterfly knife, but Yin Jian's action of twirling the butterfly knife in her hand proved one thing. Yin Jian was the one who killed the thugs on the ground with their throats slit. There were no exceptions. Yu Luo and the rest were cowering in the corner in fear. Although Chu Xiangnan and the rest were standing not far away, they did not have knives in their hands. These thugs were all killed by knives. Apart from Hertz, who was shot in the heart and had his eyeballs blown out, the rest were all killed by knives. Yin Jian took out the butterfly knife again and twirled it with ease. She swore to the crowd that she was the one who killed them. Yin Jian could not be blamed for being so high profile. She was the one who killed these thugs, so naturally, she was the one who killed them. Moreover, there were so many witnesses when she killed the thugs just now. Paper could not contain fire. Even if she did not say it herself, the hundreds of people present would not say it. Therefore, Yin Jian decided to reveal it herself. Moreover, this matter was not over yet. Don't forget, at the beginning, Hertz had made a call to the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. The call went through. Hertz was probably a low-ranking member in the Inferno Ring, even though he was not on the list. Therefore, Yin Jian was sure that the Inferno Ring would send people here to save Hertz and the rest. Hertz and the rest had already been killed by her. The Inferno Ring naturally did not know about this. Most of the people present could not understand the conversation between Hertz and the Inferno Ring's headquarters. Although some people had learned English, the real English they spoke was somewhat different from what the teachers taught them in school. Even if the people present could understand the conversation between Hertz and the Inferno Ring's headquarters, Yin Jian was not afraid. What Yin Jian wanted to do was to wipe out all the people sent by the Inferno Ring to save Hertz. If she wanted to do this, she would definitely cooperate with the police, because it would be more convenient to deal with things then. She didn't like troublesome things. Therefore, Yin Jian planned to reveal her skills as soon as she appeared. "Did you kill him?" Officer Bao looked at Yin Jian in disbelief. The words that came out of his mouth were filled with shock and bewilderment. Others might not know, but Officer Bao knew it very well. Officer Bao had personally experienced how difficult it was to pursue Hertz and his gang. Hertz and his group failed to assassinate the deputy mayor of F province, and were discovered by the police. After that, Officer Bao led the police to chase after Hertz, and barely managed to trap Hertz and his group in the dojo. Zhang He and the others were unharmed. In fact, none of them were injured. On the other hand, Officer Bao had lost many of his brothers. Although Officer Bao's brothers did not die, they were seriously injured in the process of chasing Hertz and the others. Faced with such a powerful criminal, Officer Bao had already decided to appeal to his superiors and request for the advanced special forces to come to his rescue. When Ai Guoxuan and Ge Junjian arrived, The advanced special forces were about to arrive as well. Who would have thought that such a powerful criminal would be killed by Yun Jian? He was killed by an underage girl. Why don't you believe me? Yun Jian crossed her arms. She turned to look at Officer Bao and the others with narrowed eyes. Her lackadaisical attitude made everyone's hearts skip a beat. Chapter 545. Everyone was stunned when they heard that. Even Yun Jian raised a brow. She turned to see Coach Su slowly making his way over. Coach Su was an instructor at the dojo, and the fifth-generation successor of Yongchun Dojo. As for the Yongchun Mansion, it was quite famous in F Province. It was a place to teach martial arts, and had been located in Province F for hundreds of years. As the owner of the Yongchun Gymnasium, Coach Su, who was also the fifth-generation successor of the Yongchun Gymnasium, was quite famous locally. At least in F Province, most people would give him face. Even the police were no exception. Therefore, when Coach Su stood out and spoke to the crowd, who would not believe him? I saw it with my own eyes. Coach Su had already walked in front of Officer Bao. He stared at Officer Bao with his dark eyes and spoke in a firm tone. Officer, I'm the current dojo owner of Yongchun Dojo Sumo. She killed these people. I can guarantee that. Coach Su knew that Yun Jian intended to come clean, so he stood out to help her. Officer Bao knew that Instructor Su was the current owner of Yongchun Pavilion, Sumo, right away. He nodded, not that he did not believe Yun Jian's story. Even the famous dojo owner of Yongchun Dojo stood out for Yun Jian. How could this be fake? So it's Coach Su from Yongchun Dojo. Nice to meet you. Officer Bao extended his hand to greet Coach Su. Ai Guishuan's face flushed red when he heard Coach Su's words. It was an awkward look. How he had criticized Yun Jian earlier, questioned Yun Jian, and even pointed his gun at Yun Jian, claiming that she was being controlled by the criminals. How awkward was Ai Guishuan's current state? However, no one cared about Ai Guishuan now. Officer Bao evacuated the crowd and cleaned up the scene. He had Coach Su send the students home at the same time. As for the 3 dead youths, Officer Bao felt sorry for them, but there was nothing he could do. He could only send someone to mediate with their family members. After all, the dead could not be brought back to life. No one would have thought that such an unlucky thing would happen. After the students of Yongchun Pavilion were evacuated, only Officer Bao and his colleagues from the police station, as well as the 7 members of Team Monarch, Battling Dragons, Coach Su, Gujunjian, and Ai Guishuan were left. Except for Coach Su. All the people here were either from the military or the police. Yun Jian then walked in front of Gujunjian and stopped Gujunjian. Yun Jian, what's wrong? Gujunjian was stunned. He had been helping the police clean up the set, but now he was suspicious. This isn't over yet, Yun Jian said. Her tone didn't sound like she was joking. Why aren't you done yet? Yun Jian, do you think you haven't been in the limelight enough? 3 of them are dead. Lil Bin, Lil Wu, Lil Lei and the rest. Yu Luo hated Yun Jian to the core. Seeing how good Yun Jian was at fighting earlier, she was instantly enraged. Now that she had unintentionally overheard Yun Jian's words, Yu Luo even pretended to feel sorry for the 3 youths killed by the criminals to show Yun Jian's viciousness. Actually, Yu Luo only knew their names, but she was trying her best to make it seem like she was grieving for the 3 youths. Chapter 546. However, no one paid any attention to Yu Luo's words. After all, Yun Jian's capability was right in front of them. How could Yu Luo dismiss her with a few words? How could Yun Jian, who could kill the group of criminals just now, be a weakling? Go on. Gu Yunjian's dark eyes stared straight at Yun Jian. When Yun Jian said that the matter was not over yet, he was already looking at Yun Jian with a frown. Since Yun Jian had said so, she must have her reasons for doing so. Gu Yunjian's disregard made Yu Luo hate Yun Jian even more. Yun Jian ignored Yu Luo as well. She looked at Gu Junjian and said, I'm sure the police have guessed that the criminals just now are part of an organization. I've already guessed that. Officer Bao, who was standing at the side, responded to Yun Jian. He then said with a hint of disappointment, It's a pity that we don't know the identities of these criminals. Otherwise, They will be brought to justice for the crime of assassinating the deputy mayor of F province and harming innocent people. TSK. Yu Luo scoffed from the side, but the target of her ridicule was Yun Jian. Yun Jian was doing this on purpose, wasn't she? Should she tell them about this and then pretend to be very powerful when talking to Officer Bao and the others? Did she think that she was some international big shot? Who did she think she was? Just as Yu Luo thought so and scoffed without giving face, Yun Jian's clear voice rang again. The Inferno Ring. What? This time, not only Officer Bao, but even AI Guixuan cried out in surprise. The Inferno Ring. The criminals just now were from the Inferno Ring? If that was the case, the situation was not looking good. Perhaps normal people did not know what the Inferno Ring was. But as members of the police or military, Officer Bao, AI Guixuan, and Gu Junjian knew very well. The Inferno Ring. Wasn't that an international assassin organization that was second only to the Han organization and the Kosha mercenaries? If a famous assassin organization could be wanted globally and not be annihilated by Interpol, it meant that the organization had the strength to survive in this world. Those small killer organizations, which one of them wasn't annihilated by the Interpol in the end? Their lairs had been destroyed. As for assassin organizations like Han Group, Kosha Mercenaries, and Inferno Ring, it was not that Interpol was unwilling to eliminate them, but that they could not. Some police departments even regarded these top-ranked assassin organizations as big tumors that they didn't dare to touch. If he could hide, he would hide. If he could run, he would run. These words had already become the default method of some police departments and international business politicians. But today, they heard from Yun Jian that the Inferno Ring was second only to the #1 international assassin organization, Han, and the #1 international mercenary organization, Wuxia. How could they not be stunned? What Inferno Ring? Yu Luo had never heard of the Inferno Ring. After hearing Yun Jian's words, she snorted and asked curiously. The Inferno Ring is an assassin organization, second only to the #1 international assassin organization, Han, and the #1 international mercenary organization, Wuxia. An assassin organization that even Interpol can't annihilate isn't something we can afford to offend. Officer Bao frowned, his voice trembling when he realized that he was sweating profusely from fear. Chapter 547. However, Yu Luo's words were ignored once more. AI Guixuan had even glared at Yu Luo a few times when she spoke. Why did he have such a dumb subordinate like Yu Luo? She did not even know what was important. How could they talk about the Inferno Ring? Yu Luo did not even notice AI Guixuan's glare at her to shut her mouth. AI Guixuan was already burning with rage, because Yu Luo and battling dragons could not defeat Yun Jian. Suppressing the urge to slap Yu Luo, he retracted his glaring gaze. What's going on? Tell us in detail, Yun Jian. Gu Junjian was much calmer than AI Guixuan and Officer Bao. AI Guixuan's shock and fear when he heard Yun Jian say that the men in black led by Hertz were from Inferno Ring, especially when he was shocked. In comparison, Gu Junjian was much calmer. These men are from the Inferno Ring. Yun Jian spoke. Under everyone's gaze, she walked toward the corpses of the men in black without fear. At this time, the police station had already sent people to clean up the bodies of these black-clothed men. But at this time, the bodies of these black-clothed men had not been cleaned up yet. They were still lying on the ground where they had died. Yun Jian went over and grabbed the butterfly knife with a flip of her hand, holding it in her hand. She used the butterfly knife to lift up the sleeve of Harley's corpse, and saw a golden rose branded on the back of his hand that was wrapped in the black shirt. The sparkling rose was eye-catching, but it also darkened the faces of Gu Junjian and the others. Gu Junjian's previous calmness was replaced by shock and horror. This is the Inferno Ring symbol. Anyone from the Inferno Ring will be branded with this symbol. After Yun Jian unfolded the golden rose on the back of He Yi's hand, she stood up and wiped the butterfly knife again with a tissue before keeping it in her pocket, talking as she walked. This isn't a secret. You'll find out if you don't believe me. Yun Jian tucked her hands into her pockets and looked at Officer Bao, and the others with narrowed eyes. Her last sentence was meant for Officer Bao and the others. Yin Jian knew that Gu Junjian had to believe her words. Gu Junjian stepped forward with a frown and added, "That's indeed the Inferno Ring's symbol. I saw this symbol during a mission 10 years ago." Gu Junjian's words made Officer Bao and the others shudder. They were really from the Inferno Ring. Yin Jian was not lying. "Then what should we do?" Officer asked with a tremble in his voice, frightened. As police officers or special forces, they had all heard of the Inferno Ring's prestige. It was an organization that would do anything to achieve their goals. An assassin's secret agents and assassins. If they were to be retaliated against, wouldn't they be dead meat? We are soldiers. Our people from Country Z were killed by them. Are we going to step back because we are afraid of them? Gu Junjian said with a frown. Gu Junjian had mixed feelings when the 3 innocent youths were killed by Hertz's group. Now that he heard Officer Bao and the others saying that they wanted to stay out of it because they were afraid of the Inferno Ring, Gu Junjian was enraged. Chapter 548. Destroy them. Yin Jian's words stirred fear in the crowd once more. Destroy who? Destroy Inferno Ring? Are you asking us to go against Inferno Ring? Before Gu Junjian could reply, Ai Guoxuan had already hollered with a slight tremor in his high-pitched voice. Inferno Ring? That's an international assassin organization. Even Interpol can't do anything to them. You want our Province F's military to go against them, so that you can reap the benefits? Gu Junjian, keep your men in check. I only have one thing to say. Our Province F's military won't interfere in this. Ai Guoxuan's voice shifted from Yin Jian to Gu Junjian like a bullet, his words blasting out. Ai Guoxuan was obviously pushing the blame for Yin Jian's words onto Gu Junjian, assuming that Gu Junjian had instigated Yin Jian to say those words. The truth was that this had happened in Province F, and the Province F's military was under Ai Guoxuan's command. If they were to go against Inferno Ring, the Province F's military would definitely go downhill. From the looks of it, Gu Junjian, as the officer of Zhe Province's advanced special forces, had no reason to interfere. Ai Guoxuan even thought that Gu Junjian wanted his military to go against Inferno Ring. By then, Gu Junjian would be able to reap the benefits from the loss of many of his men, making Zhe Province's military stronger than his Province F's. If that was the case, wouldn't Gu Junjian be the one to be praised by Officer Yuan? Ai Guoxuan, can you be any more shameless? Gu Junjian was so angry that he pointed at Ai Guoxuan's head and roared. Trying to calm himself down, Gu Junjian pointed at Ai Guoxuan and spoke in the calmest tone that could explode at any moment. Let's put our personal grudges aside for now, all right? You're F Province's advanced special forces officer after all. How could you think like that? I, Gu Junjian, swear that everything I do is for the good of the people. Why did we join the army? Wasn't it all for the sake of the country's stability, and for the people to live and work in peace? Shouldn't we join hands to drive those criminals out of our country? Wake up. Ai Guoxuan, have you forgotten why we joined the military in the first place? Now, the people we want to protect have been killed. They were only in their teens. A teenager was killed by these criminals just like that. And you still want to run away from it? Are we going to let those lawbreakers bully and humiliate us? Gu Junjian can't do it. Gu Junjian said all this in one breath, and by the end of it, he was already furious. Ai Guoxuan, who was being scolded by Gu Junjian, was deep in thought for 2 seconds. While Ai Guoxuan was deep in thought, Yin Jian was already standing in front of the group. She looked at the group with a slight smirk before looking at Ai Guoxuan. Following closely behind Gu Junjian, she said to Ai Guoxuan, "You can choose to escape, but I can also tell you that the Inferno Ring won't do anything when their men are killed in F Province. The Inferno Ring will be here soon. Of course, you can choose to retreat, but don't blame me for not reminding you that even if you don't destroy them, they'll destroy you. The Inferno Ring was an organization that would seek revenge. If their men were killed outside, the organization would definitely send people to assassinate them. Yin Jian had killed Hertz and his men, and the truth would come out sooner or later. So many people had seen her kill Hertz and his men, the Inferno Ring would definitely come knocking. By then, even Ai Guoxuan and his men would not be able to escape. What do you want then? After a moment of silence, Ai Guoxuan finally gritted his teeth and put aside his grudge with Gu Junjian to ask Yunjian. Chapter 549. Eradicate the Inferno Ring completely. Make it a thing of the past. It was in line with Yunjian's character to be able to spout such arrogant words. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of air. She was arrogant. But was it really possible for them to go against the Inferno Ring with all their forces combined? Was it even possible? It's not that we don't want to eliminate the Inferno Ring, but we can't fight them at all. Officer Bao said with a hint of frustration, picking up on what everyone else wanted to say. Now that they had offended the Inferno Ring, no one could escape. The only thing they could do now was to go head-to-head with the Inferno Ring. However, could they really win if they went head-to-head with the Inferno Ring? The Inferno Ring was an existence that even Interpol was no match for. Even Interpol would have to think twice before making a move against an assassin organization like the Inferno Ring. What more them? Whether it was Officer Bao, Gu Junjian, or Ai Guoxuan combined, they only had this much power. How could they go head-to-head with the Inferno Ring? I'll ask Officer Yuan for backup from the higher-ups. Gu Junjian pressed his lips together. This was the only solution he could think of. Ai Guoxuan did not put up a front anymore. He knew how terrifying the Inferno Ring was. To go head-to-head with the Inferno Ring, everyone had to work together. Even so, we're still at a disadvantage. The Inferno Ring's forces are spread all over the world. Officer Bao said, troubled. Officer Bao's position in Province F was not particularly low, so he had the right to speak. Chu Ning and the others from Team Monarch, as well as Yu Luo and the others from Battling Dragons, could only watch. However, Coach Su had nothing to do with these things. What if the Kosha mercenaries are added to the mix? The female voice that came out of nowhere shocked the officers and officers present. What? Officer Bao had yet to recover from his shock when he heard Yin Jian's words. He looked at Yin Jian in disbelief, his voice trembling. Kosha mercenaries? Wasn't that Gu Sha? The #1 mercenary group alongside the #1 assassin organization, and Hun? How? How could you know the Kosha mercenaries? Ai Guoxuan's legs almost gave out from the shock. At this moment, even Yu Luo, who was standing to the side, felt her heart tremble violently. Her intuition told her that Yun Jian was becoming more and more mysterious. If the people present did not know about the Inferno Ring, then perhaps there was a reason. After all, although the Inferno Ring was powerful, it was not a legendary existence. However, the Kosha mercenaries were different. The Kosha mercenaries were on par with the Hun organization. Internationally, it was an existence that struck fear into the hearts of major businessmen and politicians. It could be said that if Interpol had any chance of wiping out the Inferno Ring, it would have been impossible. Then it would be impossible to eliminate the Kosha mercenaries, or the Hun organization. There was no possibility of that happening. You don't believe me? Yin Jian raised her eyebrows and said indifferently, so what if you know the Kosha mercenaries? That was the #1 mercenary group in the world. Do you think they'd help you? Moreover, if we were to go against the Inferno Ring, we wouldn't be able to go against them with just the help of some of the Kosha mercenaries, Ai Guoxuan said. Yun Jian frowned slightly, then raised a brow and said, what if we add the Hun organization to the mix? She had to wipe out the Inferno Ring this time. Chapter 550. Yun Jian lowered her eyelids, giving silent consent to everyone's doubts. She could not wait any longer. She had to annihilate the Inferno Ring this time. Xiao Zhu had died tragically in the hands of the Inferno Ring in her past life. Wolf, who had killed Xiao Zhu, was a member of the Inferno Ring. This was the truth Yun Jian had found out after a thorough investigation. As long as the Inferno Ring remained unpunished, Yun Jian would not be able to rest in peace. She wanted the Inferno Ring to pay the price. Destroy. Let the Inferno Ring have a taste of slaying God's wrath. Anyone who dared to provoke slaying God would have to suffer her wrath. As for why she wanted to join forces with Gu Junjian, and AI Guishuan's military forces. It was not without reason. Country Z had a large population, and there were many soldiers in both provinces. Their combined strength was rather formidable. Yun Jian knew that her Kosha mercenaries could not send all their men to annihilate the Inferno Ring. After all, the Kosha mercenaries had just annihilated the old men not too long ago. Now that the mercenary group had suffered heavy losses, they needed time to recuperate. If it were not for Gu Junjian and AI Guishuan's help, Yun Jian would not have taken action to annihilate the Inferno Ring. After all, the Inferno Ring was an assassin organization. The Kosha mercenaries who had suffered heavy losses were far from enough to annihilate them. AI Guishuan and Gu Yunjian's military forces were not weak. She could rope them in and contact CE to borrow some men from the Anhun group. Yun Jian was sure that if the Inferno Ring could escape the fate of being annihilated this time, she would pronounce her name Yun Jian upside down. As for AI Guishuan and Gu Junjian, Yun Jian was not using them. As officers of the Advanced Special Forces, both AI Guishuan and Gu Junjian yearned for fame. If they could eliminate the Inferno Ring that even Interpol could not, then AI Guishuan and Gu Yunjian's status would be vastly different. AI Guishuan and Gu Junjian would not have accepted such an offer if they had no chance of winning back then. Hence, Yun Jian brought up the Kosha mercenaries and Anhun. Of course, even if Yun Jian wanted to borrow people from Anhun, she would never want to lend out most of Anhun's people. Yun Jian knew that as long as she opened her mouth, CE would send all the members of Anhun over, or even send all the members of Anhun to wipe out the Inferno Ring. However, considering the fact that Anhun organization and Kosha mercenaries had mobilized some of their men, it was unlikely that other assassin organizations would take advantage of the situation. To be safe, Yun Jian invited Gu Junjian and AI Guishuan. Yun Jian, do you really know the people from the Kosha mercenaries and Anhun? You have the ability to invite them over? It was not that Gu Junjian did not believe Yun Jian, but the news was too much for him to accept. They were two of the most renowned organizations in the world. Just one of them alone was comparable to a country's combat power. As for Yun Jian, did she really have the ability to invite people from these two organizations over? Gu Junjian knew very well what kind of person Yun Jian was. Her biological parents were just ordinary workers in Xinjiang town. Whether it was Qin Yiru or Qin Yiru's ex-husband, Yin Gang, both of them were ordinary people. As their child, Yun Jian could not possibly be acquainted with two of the most terrifying organizations in the world. Could she? I never make promises that I can't do. Yun Jian looked at Gu Junjian, her eyes sparkling. She did not look like she was lying at all. All right, I believe you, Gu Junjian said firmly. Chapter 551. I trust her. Gu Junjian turned to look at AI Guishuan. He spoke resolutely, his tone brimming with the pride of a soldier. The current Gu Junjian made others see him in a new light. This was a brand new soldier's demeanor. Only a soldier could possess such an awe-inspiring aura. Because she's my subordinate. If I can't even trust my subordinate, who else can I trust? Gu Junjian looked at AI Guishuan and uttered word by word. Actually, there was a deeper meaning behind Gu Yunjian's words. Back then, before AI Guishuan had dragged Gu Yunjian's other brother to take the bullet, he had told Gu Junjian that he did not trust the other brother. That was because the other brother was usually petty. Although the three of them were brothers, AI Guishuan was meticulous. His mind was as delicate as a woman's, always noticing things that were out of the ordinary. Their other brother was also petty. For example, he would turn hostile at once if AI Guishuan wanted to borrow something from him. AI Guishuan was very upset about that. Gu Junjian knew that before AI Guishuan dragged his brother to take the bullet, there was already a crack in their friendship. However, Gu Junjian was furious. He was furious that his brother had insisted on dragging him back to save AI Guishuan despite his superior's order to retreat, only to be dragged by AI Guishuan to take a bullet and die on the spot. His brother had gone back for AI Guishuan, but AI Guishuan had ungratefully dragged him along to take the bullet. How could Gu Junjian not be enraged? Ever since then, Gu Junjian had not been on AI Guishuan's side anymore. Since then, Gejunjian and Ai Guoxuan had gone from being best buddies to the current stalemate. All of this started when Ai Guoxuan dragged his other good friend to take the bullet for him. To put it bluntly, it was because Ai Guoxuan did not trust his brother. Otherwise, Ai Guoxuan would not have done such a thing if there was no barrier between them. Therefore, when Gejunjian said that if he didn't trust his own subordinates, who else could he trust? Part of it was meant for Ai Guoxuan. This time, Ai Guoxuan surprisingly did not fight with Gejunjian. Alright, then you can trust me. Humph. In any case, the people in my army will not take this risk. Ai Guoxuan, who had been swayed by her words earlier, scoffed coldly and rejected her again. Don't help if you don't want to. Goodbye. Yunjian glared at Ai Guoxuan coldly. Actually, there was not much difference between having Ai Guoxuan's help or not. The Enhun organization and her kosher mercenaries were enough to suppress the Inferno Ring. However, Yunjian's invitation to Gejunjian and Ai Guoxuan was well thought out. Ai Guoxuan left in a huff after being angered by Yunjian. Before he left, Ai Guoxuan called for Yuluo and the rest to leave together. Before he stepped out of the semicircular door, he turned to look at Yunjian and spoke to her with his nose up in the air. I'd like to see how you're going to get the kosher mercenaries and Enhun to help you. Humph. I'll be waiting to see. As he spoke, Ai Guoxuan pointed at his eyes and left with Yuluo and the rest in a huff. Chapter 552. Just open your eyes wide and watch, Yunjian said with her eyes lowered, annoyed by Yuluo's words. Yuluo thought that Yunjian would not reply to her. But Yunjian's first words were merciless mockery. She was enraged by Yunjian's words. Just as she was about to retort Yunjian, she saw that Yunjian had a butterfly knife in her hand. She was toying with it, swinging it up and down. Yuluo gulped. She had not forgotten how Yunjian had stabbed Hertz's eyeballs with this butterfly knife. She also could not forget how Jay and his men in black were killed by Yunjian. Yunjian's bizarre moves were so natural that one would shudder at the mere thought of it, let alone the way Yunjian was swinging the butterfly knife in her hand. Yunjian was swinging the butterfly knife casually in front of Yuluo, even looking at her from the corner of her eyes. The scene sent chills down Yuluo's spine. Hey Officer AI, let's go. Yuluo was so frightened that she quickly ran out. Her laughable look made everyone present feel that she was being ridiculed. Where had the awe-inspiring Miss Yu gone? Right now, Yuluo was like a little mouse that was running for its life. She did not even greet her uncle Coach Su when she left. Coach Su could only sigh with his head hung low. This was also one of the reasons he did not think highly of his niece. She was too arrogant, too ostentatious, and too selfish. After Ai Guoxuan and Yuluo left, the world seemed to have quieted down. I can also help. Just as Yunjian had decided to discuss the next step with Gejunjian, Officer Bao suddenly spoke up from the side. Unknowingly, Yunjian had taken control of the situation. My position isn't high, but as long as it's within F Province's jurisdiction, I can still do my part. Officer Bao gritted his teeth, determined to do something big. Thank you. Yunjian looked up at Officer Bao and smiled. For some reason, Officer Bao was pleasantly surprised by Yunjian's sudden gratitude. You're welcome. Officer Bao replied immediately. Alright, I'm going to arrange the next step. Yunjian had already thought through the entire incident and her subsequent plans in such a short amount of time. Yunjian had Officer Bao call most of the police out, leaving only a few trustworthy ones behind. Coach Su did not leave as well. It was only then that Yunjian began to explain her next step. Hertz asked for help from the Inferno Ring before he died, saying that they're trapped in the dojo. So, Officer Bao, what you're going to do next is to make everyone who knows about what happened today keep their mouths shut. In that case, the Inferno Ring won't know what happened here, nor will they know that Hertz and his men are dead. Officer Bao, continue to surround the Martial Club with your men. Just pretend that Hertz and his men aren't dead yet. I'll get Gusha's men to assist you right away. No matter how many reinforcements the Inferno Ring sends, or when they arrive, capture them all. Inform me immediately after you've captured them. Officer Gu, you'll bring your men with you. Once the Inferno Ring's men are captured, you'll follow me to meet up with the Kosha mercenaries, and in Han. We'll charge straight into the Inferno Ring's lair and catch them off guard. As for the Kosha mercenaries and in Han, I'll arrange for them to come to the rescue. Officer Bao led a group of police officers to pretend that Hertz and his men weren't dead, and continued to surround the dojo, waiting for the Inferno Ring to walk right into their trap. Once the Inferno Ring's reinforcements arrived, Yun Jian would send the Kosha mercenaries to capture all of them on the spot. Chapter 553. As soon as Yun Jian finished arranging her plan, Officer Bao led the police to surround the dojo again. Officer Bao had some influence in F province. As for Coach Su, he was very cooperative with Yun Jian's plan. He even promised Yun Jian that he would not step out of the dojo for the next few days, in order to make the plan look flawless. Yun Jian also had a good impression of Coach Su. Although Coach Su and Yu Luo were uncle and niece, Coach Su's personality was completely different from Yu Luo's. Coach Su was a very righteous person, which was a stark contrast to Yu Luo's selfish personality. Officer Gu, let's split up now. You go back to the Zhe province army and apply for a transfer of soldiers from the army. We'll meet at Xiaowan Pier in Country S. Yun Jian looked at Gu Junjian and said, Xiaowan Pier in Country S was the only way to get to the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. Usually, the headquarters of an assassin or secret agent organization were built on an island in the sea, and the hiding place was very secretive. Yun Jian had the ability to know about this. Don't forget, her Kosha mercenaries' intelligence team was the best in the world. Yun Jian could get the news directly from the intelligence team about any big or small international news. The headquarters of the Inferno Ring had been there for so many years. Her Kosha mercenaries' intelligence team had already figured out the coordinates of the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. Yun Jian even knew the exact location of the headquarters of the Inferno Ring, and how many square meters it was. Okay. Gu Junjian looked at Yun Jian suspiciously, but finally nodded in agreement. But after thinking for a while, Gu Junjian still asked Yun Jian, Yun Jian, Xiaowan Pier in Country S is the headquarters of the Inferno Ring? Gu Junjian wanted to say something. Even Officer Bao, who was standing at the side, was equally shocked. The Inferno Ring had existed for so many years, and even the Interpol could not find a trace of it. Not to mention finding the headquarters of the Inferno Ring. Yet, Yun Jian had directly given him the address. Coupled with the fact that Yun Jian had threatened to destroy the Inferno Ring the moment she mentioned it, and the fact that Yun Jian had killed all the members of the Inferno Ring, Gu Junjian was suddenly struck by a terrifying thought. Could it be that Yun Jian had a grudge against the Inferno Ring? Otherwise, why would a little girl like her pay so much attention to the Inferno Ring, which was second only to the Han organization and the Kosha mercenaries? This shouldn't have happened. Yun Jian did not intend to hide the location of Inferno Ring's headquarters. She nodded in front of Gu Junjian and Officer Bao. Yes. Chu Ning and the others, who had been standing at the side without interrupting, were stunned speechless by Yun Jian's actions. They thought that they already knew Yun Jian well enough, but they didn't expect that. She even knew people from Han and Kosha mercenaries? She even knew the location of the Inferno Ring's headquarters. Alright, we'll move out immediately. Gu Junjian nodded, and took out his phone to call his superior to request for the military to send people over. Yun Jian also sent a text to Snake Lizard, asking it to send some people to F province to support Officer Bao's men, and wait for the Inferno Ring to send people to rescue Hertz. Just after Gu Junjian and Yun Jian finished their calls and texts, a man with a deep frown appeared on his face. A man's voice that was deep in thought with a frown rang out. Yun Jian, I want to ask you something. The person who spoke was Lu Shiyin, who was standing not far away. Chu Ning and the others were also stunned. Captain, what do you want to ask? Why are you being so secretive? Haha. Chu Xiangnan chuckled as he teased, but Chu Ning pulled his ear and dragged him to the side. What's the matter? Yun Jian asked, pursing her lips. Your code name is Killer God, And you know people from the kosher mercenaries. From what I know, the boss of the kosher mercenaries also has the codename Slaying God, which is so similar to your codename. Slaying God is the #1 on the international secret agent ranking. I really want to know, are you guys related? Chapter 554. Lu Shiyun's words caught everyone's attention. It was Officer Bao and Coach Su's first time hearing that Yunjian's code name was Slashing God. Gu Junjian and the rest knew about it. But with Lu Shiyun's reminder, they focused their attention. Although Slashing God and Slaying God had different pronunciations, if one thought about it, there was only a slight difference between the two names. Yunjian was able to convince the kosher mercenaries, and an Hun group, to help them eliminate the Inferno Ring. It did not make sense for a junior high school student like her to do so, did it not? Everyone stared at Yunjian, trying to get an answer from Yunjian. Under everyone's expectant gaze, Yunjian raised her brow. She looked energetic, giving people the urge to know everything about her. Yunjian's performance was too shocking. Her ability had surpassed that of a junior high school student. Under everyone's gaze, Yunjian's lips curled up. Her smile was mesmerizing, delicate yet not lacking in beauty. Just the sight of it was enough to fill one with joy. She curled her lips and calmly spat out the words that shocked everyone. It has something to do with me. Yes. Yunjian was related to Slaying God, the #1 secret agent in the international ranking. That was the #1 secret agent in the international ranking. Gu Junjian and the rest felt as if there were 10,000 horses galloping in their hearts. A sudden shock and fear spread through their bodies. Who was Slaying God? In Gu Junjian and the rest's eyes, all information about Slaying God could only be described as rumors. Rumor had it that Slaying God appeared and disappeared mysteriously. She started killing at the age of 12, and within 2 years, she went from an unknown female secret agent to a dark horse in the underworld. Rumor had it that she had eliminated the top 10 assassin organizations when she was 13. She had eliminated an entire organization on her own. She was only 13. What would a normal child be doing at the age of 13? They would be growing up in their parents' arms. However, to Slaying God, these things that were impossible were all facts. This was because only a small number of people knew that Slaying God had been abducted by the organization when she was 5. Now that she was 13, she had stepped on countless lives and blood. 8 years of growth was enough to turn a child into a terrifying killing machine. However, after Slaying God annihilated one of the top 10 assassin organizations on the list at the age of 13, she killed the previous boss of kosher mercenaries and replaced him before everyone could process what had happened. This step was enough for Slaying God to gain a foothold in the international arena. By the time she was 16, Slaying God had already taken the world by storm and was ranked #1 on the international secret agent ranking. This kind of growth speed terrified everyone. And now, Yunjian actually said that she was related to that legendary character. How could Gu Junjian and the others not be shocked? How could they not go crazy? In fact, Gu Junjian and the others would never have dreamed that Yunjian would become 1 year younger when she was 16 years old in her previous life. When she was reborn, Yunjian was only 15 years old. Now that the new year was over, she had turned from 15 to 16 years old. In fact, Yunjian was already 17 years old now. It was just that her body was 1 year younger. You know her. I'm referring to Slaying God. Lu Shiyun gulped as he asked again. There was an unmistakable panic on his face. If Yunjian really knew Slaying God, everyone present would be shocked. After all, not many people in the world had seen Slaying God's face. I'm her. However, the girl's clear and loud voice was as pleasant as the sound of nature, pulling everyone's attention back to the present. Chapter 555. Yunjian was Slaying God? What kind of international joke was this? Everyone stared at Yunjian in horror. Their faces were drained of color. Slaying God, the top assassin on the international secret agent ranking, was not on the same level as everyone present. Some countries and regions had categorized Slaying God as one of the people not to be trifled with. The mere thought of such a terrifying existence was enough to send chills down one's spine. Did Yunjian just say that she was slaying God? However, Gu Junjian and the rest who knew about Yunjian's skills were stunned. Gu Junjian in particular was completely dumbfounded and in disbelief. In spite of it, Gu Junjian was the one who knew Yunjian's skills the best among everyone present. This was because Yunjian had killed Wolf Blade, who was ranked 10th on the international assassin ranking. Wolf Blade, who was ranked 10th on the international assassin ranking, was killed by Yunjian, a junior high school girl. No matter how one looked at it, it was completely unrealistic. However, it was the truth. Back then, Gu Junjian had thought that unless Yunjian was one of the top 10 assassins on the international secret agent or assassin ranking, how could she kill Wolf Blade alone? She was a top-notch assassin. This. Lu Shiyan panicked when he heard Yunjian's words. He looked at the smiling girl. Just when Gu Junjian believed her, and the rest were doubtful and fearful, the girl's melodious voice was heard again. I was just kidding. When they turned to look again, Yunjian was already squinting with her arms crossed. She tilted her head and looked at everyone. The glimmer in her eyes made them feel relaxed and happy. Phew, Yunjian, isn't this a little too much? I almost believed it. Feng Xiaoran patted his chest. He seemed to be in deep shock. That's right. You really made me break out in a cold sweat. Chu Xiangnan, who had just been dragged away by Chu Ning by the ear, came back again. He stared at Yunjian for a few seconds and laughed out loud, bringing back some of the tension in the air. Come on, my Yunjian loves to joke around, haha. Chu Ning chimed in. However, Yunjian didn't usually joke around. Yunjian smiled awkwardly. Her smile was very shy. Cough. So it was a joke. Lu Shiyan recovered from the tense atmosphere and rubbed his nose. Compared to Chu Xiangnan's group, he was more careful. However, Lu Shiyan didn't think too much about it. Just a joke? Officer Bao was so frightened that he almost suffocated. Then he pursed his lips, and the fear from before disappeared. Only Gu Junjian was still frowning and deep in thought. Yunjian's joke made him feel that what she said was true. Yunjian was the secret agent slaying God. Gu Junjian had a feeling that even if Yunjian wasn't slaying God, she was still related to slaying God. However, Gu Junjian couldn't say what the relationship was. Yunjian pursed her lips and spoke again. I do have a certain relationship with the Kosha mercenaries, and the Inferno Ring has a grudge against the Kosha mercenaries. So don't worry, the Kosha mercenaries won't let the Inferno Ring off the hook, so you don't have to worry about being implicated. Yunjian's words made everyone's expression change slightly. Officer Bao was the first to nod. Yunjian's words made everyone feel more at ease. In fact, the thing that they were most afraid of when dealing with the Inferno Ring was that the Kosha mercenaries and an Hun group wouldn't come to help. Would they not be doomed if they went up against the Inferno Ring alone? Chapter 556. Alright, we can start now. Gu Junjian spoke up after Yunjian was done giving instructions. Gu Junjian was the highest-ranking officer among everyone present, so he had absolute authority to carry out his orders. When the people present heard this, they all agreed. Officer Gu, leave this to me. Officer Bao had a good impression of Gu Junjian. To be honest, Officer Bao did not like Ai Guoxuan. Although Ai Guoxuan was considered Officer Bao's superior, the latter's attitude of not caring about their lives chilled Officer Bao's heart. To be honest, other than Yunjian, Officer Bao and the others were the only ones who would be targeted for revenge after the Inferno Ring members died in the dojo. What Officer Bao did not expect was that his own officer in F province, Gu Junjian, would come to his aid instead of Ai Guoxuan. Officer Bao was grateful for Gu Yunjian's gesture. You stay here first. The Kosha mercenaries will be here soon to help you, Yunjian said to Officer Bao. Officer Bao nodded. In the end, Yunjian and the others bid farewell and left. Gu Junjian drove them back to Zhe province overnight. Yunjian and the others arrived at the dojo at night, but it was not too late. At least, the dojo and other places were still open at this hour, and so were the supper shops. Gu Junjian had planned to stay a night in F province before returning, but he did not expect to run into something like this. Gu Junjian checked out of the hotel room he had booked and drove Yunjian and the others back to Zhe province overnight. They had planned to stay a night in F province because they would get tired easily after driving for a long time. Moreover, they could not see the route clearly at night, but Gu Junjian could not be bothered with that now. Fortunately, Lu Shiyin and the others, who had learned how to drive, were able to switch with Gu Junjian for a while. Therefore, Yunjian and the others returned to Zhe province at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Lu Shiyin, Chu Ning, and the others were not strong enough, so Gu Junjian sent them all back home. Yunjian had originally planned to go home before organizing a search for CE. Before that, Yunjian had something more important to do. Qin Yiru, Xiao Yunju, and Yuni were currently in Xinjiang town and had yet to return to Longmen City. Initially, Yunjian and Yuni had agreed to visit Qin Yu's house on the 12th, but she had to postpone it for a few days due to a last-minute plan. As for Qin Yu, Yunjian did not plan to let her return to the organization with her during the new year. When she parted ways with Gu Junjian, Yunjian asked him to send her to Lan Su's house. Yunjian had arranged for Lan Su to stay. Other than going to Lan Su's place before the new year, Yunjian was not free at all. It was late at night, and Yunjian did not plan to return to Xinjiang town, nor did she want to go back to Dong Ruan's house. Yunjian had something important to discuss with Lan Su. After Gu Junjian sent Yunjian to Lan Su's suite, Yunjian went upstairs alone to knock on the door. It was 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Yunjian had only knocked twice when Lan Su ran out to open the door. Lan Su was surprised to see Yunjian when he opened the door. Yunjian had come to visit him once before the new year, but had not come since. Yunjian had gone to Xinjiang town, and Yunjian had told him about it. Why did she come to his place in the wee hours of the morning? He almost called the wrong name. Yunjian, you're here to see me now? Lan Su had not seen Yunjian for a long time. Her heart was with the witch tribe, so when she saw Yunjian, she could not help calling out Lord Witch Goddess. Chapter 557. After closing the door, Yunjian stood in the luxurious suite with Lan Su. When Yunjian had asked Zhang Jifan to arrange a place for Lan Su to stay, she had picked a suite in the best location in Longmen City. Lan Su, on the other hand, was a clean and refreshing girl. Entering Lan Su's house, Yunjian saw the clean living room. The lights in the living room were still on, including Lan Su's bedroom next to the living room. The door to Lan Su's bedroom was wide open as well, the lights glaring. Yunjian shifted her gaze back to Lan Su. Lan Su was used to wearing all black. She had an aloof look, but she had thin brows, big eyes, and thin lips, a classic beauty. Yunjian could not help being impressed. Lan Su's ancient black gown accentuated her slender figure the most. When they first met, Lan Su's ancient black gown gave off a refreshing and beautiful feeling. Back to the topic, Yunjian looked at Lan Su's charming eyes under her long lashes, and was about to speak when Lan Su beat her to it. Yunjian, why are you looking for me? Lan Su's words made Yunjian press her lips together. I might not be able to come back in the next few days. You know that my mother, elder brother, and younger brother are in Xinjiang town now. What I'm going to do might bring them danger. So please go to Xinjiang town and look after them for me. Just make sure they're safe and don't let anyone take advantage of the situation, Yunjian said. Yunjian was afraid that Inferno Ring's people, or those who had been eyeing her covetously, would take the chance to lay their hands on Qin Yiru and the rest when she was not by their side. Yunjian would not make the same mistake twice. When Yunjian found Xiao Yunju in her past life, she had left Xiao Yunju in the kosher mercenaries. She did not know that snake, lizard and tiger, leopard were not in the organization at that time, and Xiao Yunju was abducted then. Although Yunjian suspected that the old folks in the kosher mercenaries were involved, she was not entirely sure. In the end, it led to Xiao Yunju's tragic death. Therefore, Yunjian would never allow such a thing to happen a second time. Just make sure they're safe? Lan Su's big eyes blinked. Her change from her aloof demeanor warmed Yunjian's heart. Yun nodded. There was a reason for her to look for Lan Su. Because Lan Su's ability. Lan Su came from the Yulong continent, and the people of the Yulong continent all had the power to cultivate. These were things that the people of Earth, who lived in the human world, could not compete with. Therefore, asking for Lan Su's help was the best idea that Yun Jian could come up with at the moment. There was no other way. Alright. Lan Su will definitely not disappoint the great sorcerer goddess. Lan Su suddenly stepped back and placed one hand in front of her chest, as she promised Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded slightly. She did not blame Lan Su for calling her the great sorcerer goddess again. Because Yun Jian knew that this was how Lan Su and the other cultivators of the Yulong continent made promises to others. As long as a cultivator made a promise like this, then even if the heavens fell and the earth cracked, she would still keep her promise. Thank you. Yun Jian squinted at Lan Su and thanked her from the bottom of her heart. Her family was her root. To Yun Jian, Qin Yuru, and the others had already become a part of her that she could not part with. This is what Lan Su should do. Lan Su nodded. It was a dreamless night. Early the next morning, Yun Jian drove her Ferrari LaFerrari back to Xinjiang town with Lan Su. This was Yun Jian's first time driving a Ferrari LaFerrari back to Xinjiang town. Therefore, when she drove the car to Xinjiang town, Zhang Meihua, who was standing outside the house, did not recognize it immediately. Chapter 558. Yun Jian nodded. Ignoring Zhang Meihua's shock, she walked around her and headed into the house. Due to the urgency of the situation, she had returned to Xinjiang town to find someone to protect Qin Yuru and the rest, so she did not have time to talk to Zhang Meihua. It was Yun Jian's first time driving a Ferrari LaFerrari back to Xinjiang town. When she returned, the passers-by in Xinjiang town were shocked. The Ferrari LaFerrari that Yun Jian had modified had a wild and arrogant feel to it. In addition, there were only 3 Ferrari LaFerrari in the world. Therefore, in the eyes of the crowd, they had never seen a car like this before. Zhang Meihua knew that Yun Jian had started New Cruise, a company that sold cars, but she did not expect Yun Jian to drive a car back. Was Yun Jian not only 16 years old? One needed to be 18 years old to get a driver's license. Was she not breaking the law? However, Zhang Meihua did not think too much about it. After all, her precious granddaughter was now an advanced Special Forces soldier. She was the director of New Cruise. She was too busy greeting her. However, Yun Jian did not pay any attention to Zhang Meihua at all. Naturally, Yun Jian still remembered how Zhang Meihua had treated her mother. However, she pretended not to know because Zhang Meihua was treating Qin Yuru very well on the surface. Although she was pretending to be nice to Qin Yuru due to her identity, as long as Qin Yuru was happy, Yun Jian would not stop her. After all, Zhang Meihua was Qin Yuru's biological mother. Naturally, Qin Yuru treated Zhang Meihua like a mother and daughter. In short, as long as Qin Yuru was happy, Yun Jian would pluck the moon from the sky. As soon as she entered, Yun Jian saw her mother, who was becoming more and more glamorous, sitting in the living room and chatting happily with a group of relatives who had come to visit Zhang Meihua. Due to Yun Jian, these relatives were now courteous to Qin Yuru and fawned over her as much as they could. Qin Yuru did not have to worry about anything now, so Qin Yuru looked much younger than before. Qin Yuru stood up immediately when she saw Yun Jian enter with Lan Su. Xiao Jian, why are you back so soon? Where's Officer Ge? Why didn't he send you back? Qin Yuru went up to check Yun Jian and asked suddenly. Mom, Officer Ge had something to do and went back. There's a training session in the military, so I'll be leaving later but I'll be back soon. Yun Jian said as she pulled Lan Su to Qin Yuru and introduced her to Qin Yuru. Mom, this is Lan Su. She's my friend. Her school asked her to write an essay for the winter break for a provincial competition. It's about the fields, but she grew up in the city and has never seen the fields in the countryside. So she's coming back with me to stay here for a few days. I can't stay here because I have something to do in the military, so please take care of her for me, Mom. Yun Jian had already discussed her confession with Lan Su before she came. It was natural for Yun Jian to lie now. Hello, Auntie. Lan Su greeted Qin Yiru after Yun Jian said that. Qin Yiru was a little disappointed when she heard that Gu Junjian did not come. In spite of it, Qin Yiru greeted Lan Su when she heard that she was her daughter's friend. Hello. You're Su, right? Come in, don't be shy. Just treat this as your own home. Amen. Lan Su nodded and entered the house. Then Mom, I'll be going first. Yun Jian squinted and turned to leave. Jijia. Xiao Yunju ran down the stairs with his short legs. Jijia. Is Gij here? Xiao Yunju ran like the wind. His bouncing and skipping made Yun Jian delighted. No. Yun Jian answered after caressing Xiao Yunju's head. Xiao Yunju hung his head in disappointment. Chapter 559. Yunju sprinted to the door with his short legs in delight and lightness. Even Zhang Meihua, who had just returned from the entrance, could not help glancing over at the sound. Yun Jian looked up slightly as well, only to see a tall silhouette appearing just in time under the warm sunlight of winter. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and beamed brightly as she followed Xiao Yunju over. Xiao Yunju was already in Siyi's arms. Siyi Gij. Xiao Yunju called out excitedly in Siyi's arms. The magnetic voice came from above. Siyi rubbed Xiao Yunju's head, but his eyes were on Yun Jian, who was making her way to him. Hey, you're here. Come in and have a seat. Qin Yiru walked over to greet them with a glance. Before Yun Jian could reach Siyi, Zhang Meihua, who was about to return from not too far away from the entrance, could not help chuckling. Hey, must be here for Xiao Jian. Come in. Have some tea before you leave. Zhang Meihua called out to Siyi like Qin Yiru, and even went to the door to tug at Siyi's sleeve, asking him to come in. Zhang Meihua was incredibly polite to Yun Jian now. She was courteous to Siyi since she had seen Siyi's Lamborghini the last time. They were all rich people. As someone who had been through this, Zhang Meihua could tell early on that the young man was most likely interested in Yun Jian. As long as she maintained a good relationship with the young man, she was not afraid that Yun Jian would not provide for her when she was old. TSK. Just thinking about it made Zhang Meihua feel like the future was within reach. Why didn't she think of treating Qin Yiru and Yun Jian better from the beginning? Then there's no need to be so friendly now. However, just as Zhang Meihua was about to touch Siyi with her dry and wrinkled hands, Siyi avoided her. No need. Siyi turned his head and glared at Zhang Meihua. Zhang Meihua's heart clenched when she saw his unapproachable look, coupled with his arrogant aura. At this moment, Zhang Meihua could feel Siyi's murderous intent, so she didn't dare to move a muscle. Yun Jian clearly saw Siyi's small movement, but Qin Yiru didn't notice it. Yun Jian walked to Siyi's side and looked at Xiao Yunju, who was nestled in Siyi's arms, with a gentle gaze. Siyi's gaze was fixed on Yun Jian. Qin Yiru walked to Siyi as well. Qin Yiru looked at Siyi and greeted him warmly. Ae, come in and have some tea. Sure. At Qin Yiru's invitation, Siyi shifted his gentle gaze away from Yun Jian and nodded at Qin Yiru with his perfect side profile. His attitude toward Zhang Meihua and Qin Yiru just now was a stark contrast. Zhang Meihua stood aside awkwardly, but she dared not say anything. She could see Siyi and Yun Jian's attitude toward her even if she was dumb. To prevent Siyi and Yun Jian from getting impatient, Zhang Meihua kept her mouth shut and followed Siyi and Yun Jian into the house. Yun Jian had planned to go to an Hun group to look for Siyi, but she didn't expect Siyi to be back, so she didn't have to rush to an Hun group. There was no harm in staying at home a little longer, so Yun Jian walked side by side with Siyi into the house. Qin Yiru walked in front. Chapter 560. From the moment Lan Su saw Siyi, she was completely dumbfounded. It was different from when she first found Yun Jian. When she first found Yun Jian, Lan Su was only pleasantly surprised. Yun Jian was the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe. Her status was one of the best in the entire Yulong continent. In her previous life, Lan Su was the protector of the sorcerer goddess. Therefore, when she found the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe, Lan Su was only pleasantly surprised. It was the ecstasy of finally finding the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe. However, the moment she saw Ce, Lan Su was completely shocked. The Yulong continent was a very vast world. However, in the Yulong continent, there was actually a higher level. The universe was vast and boundless. As humans on Earth, they were just as insignificant as dust in the vast universe. The Yulong continent was located in the endless outer space between the universe and Earth. Perhaps one day, humans would be able to reach there. However, even if they took a rocket and set off from Earth, they would not be able to reach the Yulong continent even after a few million years. This was the difference. Similarly, although the Yulong continent was a land of immortal cultivation, it was completely impossible for the people of the Yulong continent to come to Earth from there. As for the tunnel in the ancient tomb that led to the Yulong continent, it was actually man-made. That tunnel was actually a teleportation array. A transportation portal could directly transport the people of the Yulong continent or the people of Earth to the other continent through the tunnel. Lan Su also came to Earth through that tunnel. As for the Lord God, the reason why Lan Su was so terrified when she saw Ce was because that tunnel was rumored to be a formation set up by the Lord God. He directly tore the space apart and set up a transportation portal on Earth and the Yulong continent at the same time. Lan Su was sure that even the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe would not be able to do such a thing when she was at her peak. Not to mention a possibility, she did not even have to think about it. As for the Sir God's appearance, Lan Su had only seen the Sir God's appearance once when he followed the sorcerer god to the Yulong mainland. The phrase shocking the heavens was referring to that time. Lan Su naturally remembered what he looked like. As for the Lord God, Lan Su's information was limited. He had only heard that the Lord God had come to the Yulong continent from the deity continent, which was far above the Yulong continent. But today, Lan Su actually saw the Lord Divine Lord, who was revered by all living beings here. How could she not be alarmed? How could he not be respectful? Ce looked exactly the same as Sir God. Lord Divine Lord? Qi Niru walked to the front. She was the first to see Lan Su's terrified face. She immediately asked suspiciously. Yin Jian's eyes flashed at the same time. She had heard Lan Su talk about the Lord Divine Lord before, but she did not know much about it. When Ce saw Lan Su greet him respectfully, he reached out and pressed his slender fingers to the side of his head. Some images suddenly flashed past. He frowned slightly, and a trace of seriousness appeared on his handsome face. Mom, Lan Su loves acting. She plans to develop her career as an actress in the future. We are usually like this. Cooperate with her more and improve her acting skills. Yun Jian explained as she pursed her red lips. In 1998, the entertainment industry in Country Z had already begun to develop. Those who did not have a television at home more or less knew what it was like to be an actor. Chapter 561. Still want to act. She wants to be an actress. The path of being an actress isn't easy. She's an actress. She'll be laughed at if she wants to be an actress. Yun Jian had just finished speaking when Zhang Meihua walked over to Lan Su and nagged at Lan Su. In the eyes of the older generation, being an actress meant being in the limelight, just like the actors in ancient times. In the beginning of the entertainment industry, actors were disdained by the masses. In 1999, things had started to improve, but in the eyes of the older generation like Zhang Meihua, actors were just entertainers, and entertainers were just people who sold their faces. No one would have thought that in the years to come, actors would become household names. Zhang Meihua looked down on actors and acted as if she was doing Lan Su a favor. In front of Yun Jian and Ce, she persuaded Lan Su not to become an actress. In reality, Yun Jian had only said those words to cover up Lan Su's loss of composure. She hadn't expected Zhang Meihua to believe her words, and even used the tone of an experienced person to persuade Lan Su. Of course, Yun Jian knew that Zhang Meihua had said those words to gain her favor. Even if Lan Su's ambition was to become an actress, Yun Jian didn't like how Zhang Meihua belittled actors and tried to gain her favor. No one had the right to belittle any industry. Who knew if actors were doing well now? But what if they could get better in the future? When TV drama actors first started to develop, they were disdained by everyone. Mom, stop talking. Even Qin Yiru couldn't stand Zhang Meihua's words. She walked over to Zhang Meihua and tugged at the corner of her clothes. Even if the industry wasn't doing well in the beginning, since it was Lan Su's own path, Qin Yiru thought it wouldn't be bad. However, Zhang Meihua seemed determined to persuade Lan Su. She pushed Qin Yiru away and continued to speak to Lan Su. Young lady, I'm just being kind. You're a beautiful young lady. Why do you want to be an actress? Hurry up and focus on your studies. Getting into university is the most important thing. These words made Lan Su even more embarrassed. She was at her wit's end when it came to people like Zhang Meihua. Yun Jian was just looking for an excuse. She didn't expect Zhang Meihua to hold on to this matter and not let it go. Actually, Zhang Meihua thought that she was knowledgeable. Her main goal in persuading Lan Su was to make Yun Jian feel that she was a kind person and that she would help her persuade Lan Su to repent. Lan Su looked at Yun Jian awkwardly. Yun Jian pursed her lips. Zhang Meihua was still rambling on when Yun Jian turned to look at Qin Yiru and said, Mom, let's go upstairs. With that, Yun Jian called Lan Su, Ce, and Xiao Yunju to follow her upstairs. Hey. Zhang Meihua waved her hand downstairs, but was blatantly ignored. She was furious, but she didn't dare to say anything. She could only walk away with her but swaying. At this moment, Yun Jian had already brought them upstairs to the small room that Yun Jian was staying in. Lan Su, what exactly happened just now? Yun Jian turned to look at Lan Su and continued to ask. Lan Su looked up at Ce in fear. She then said calmly, Yun Jian, why does he look so similar to Sir Immortal Lord? Or is he Sir Immortal Lord? Chapter 562. After Lan Su finished talking about the Lord Divine Lord, Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly, but she didn't make a sound. Ce remained silent the entire time. Xiao Yunju was still holding a large pile of building blocks in his hands, and was happily setting them up. Xiao Yunju didn't even know what was going on. Lord Divine Lord. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows, but she didn't have any recollection of it. Lan Su said that she was the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe. Even if this was true, Yun Jian didn't remember this. And now, Lan Su said that Ce looked like the Lord Divine Lord. Moreover, Lan Su had followed her to the Lord Divine Lord's sacrificial ceremony in the Yulong mainland. Yun Jian didn't have any recollection of it at all. If Lan Su didn't mention it, she wouldn't even know that she was from the Yulong mainland. That was a few thousand years ago, but Lord Sorcerer Goddess, please believe me. Everything Lan Su said is true. Although I only saw the Lord Divine Lord's handsome face from afar, it's still fresh in my memory. Lan Su raised 3 fingers and swore to the heavens. Lan Su didn't mean anything else. She just wanted to confess that what she said was true. I believe you. Yun Jian stood up from the bed and looked at Lan Su with a determined gaze. Then, Yun Jian frowned slightly and turned to look at Ce. When Ce met Yun Jian's beautiful and probing gaze, his heart tightened. He even had the urge to bind Yun Jian under his wings. Do you want to know? His pleasant voice was like the summer fireworks. It was fleeting, but it still had a lingering magnetism. Seeing Ce turn to look at her, Yun Jian's heart skipped a beat. Then, she immediately regained her senses. Actually, Yun Jian wanted to ask Ce. This should be a coincidence, right? Based on what Lan Su had said, the Lord God, who looked like Ce, must be from the deity continent, a continent that was many times more mysterious than the Yulong continent. More importantly, that Lord Divine Emperor was the most powerful person in the deity's continent. Yun Jian naturally wanted to ask, but she didn't know where to start. She gradually lowered her eyes. I am. However, at this moment, Ce's deep voice suddenly rang out. Hearing this, even Lan Su, who was standing to the side, stared at him with her eyes wide open in shock. He said he was. He was Lord Divine Lord. Yun Jian was also stunned. However, what shocked Yun Jian the most wasn't Ce's appearance on Earth. Rather, why did he tell me this? From what Lan Su had said, Yunjian could tell that the Lord Divine Emperor of the Yulong continent had a very high status. Since Ce had never mentioned this, it was obvious that this was a secret that couldn't be told. However, he had actually told her. "Why are you telling me this?" Yunjian asked. Her pink lips looked very appetizing. "I won't hide anything from you. It was just a promise." Ce's handsome lips curved slightly as he spoke. However, this sentence made Yunjian's heart beat faster. As soon as he finished speaking, Ce stretched out his slender arm. In the next second, he scooped Yunjian up and pulled her towards him. Then he turned around and pressed Yunjian into a corner in front of Lan Su. Lan Su was so shocked by Ce's actions that she quickly covered her eyes. However, she was very curious and secretly peeked through the gaps between her fingers. When did her sorcerer goddess and Lord Divine Lord cough cough? Chapter 563. Xiao Yunju's innocent words made everyone present feel extremely awkward. Yunjian's earlobes were even redder than before. She pushed Ce away shyly, and even pinched Ce's arm lightly. Ce immediately let go of Yunjian's push. He looked at Xiao Yunju helplessly. Cough cough. As if trying to ease the awkwardness, Yunjian coughed lightly. When she was done with the initial awkwardness, she asked Ce randomly, as if trying to adjust her emotions. "Since you're the Lord Deity that Lan Su mentioned, why did you come to this world?" Yunjian's words were purely to cover up Ce's sudden actions. Ce's eyes stared unblinkingly at Yunjian. The gentleness in his deep black eyes was clearly visible. "I don't remember everything that happened in the past. I was born here, the young master of an armaments family." Ce didn't hide anything from Yunjian. He didn't even tell Adam and Mo-san, who were by his side. Lan Su was Yunjian's subordinate. Since Yunjian didn't mention it, Ce didn't mind. Yunjian then heard the gist of things from Ce. Ce only remembered that he was the Sir God of the deity's continent. He didn't forget anything else. What he remembered were only fragments. It was as if a movie was playing in his mind. He only had intermittent memories. He didn't remember everything. As for why he came here, he had already forgotten. However, he remembered that the entrance to the Yulong continent was the ancient tomb. That was why Ce told Yunjian that he was going to the catacomb, and that it was a must. That was why Ce knew so much about the sandalwood box. When Yunjian heard this from him, she immediately came to a realization. Lan Su, who was standing to the side, finally regained his senses from Ce's actions towards Yunjian. Lan Su, who was standing behind Yunjian, did not hear a single word Ce said. Don't look at Lan Su's usual attitude of keeping people 1,000 miles away. At this moment, Lan Su was actually thinking. She, the witch goddess, was enlightened. She was actually with a man. One had to know that when the sorcerer god was still alive, not a single man had appeared by her side. If the sorcerer god gave birth to a daughter, it could only be a girl. That girl could inherit the position of the sorcerer god. However, it was a pity that the witch goddess in her previous life did not even have a man by her side, let alone being in a relationship with a man. What Lan Su wanted to do the most right now was to tell the good news to everyone in the shaman tribe. Sister, I want a kiss. I want a hug. After Ce and Yunjian finished talking, Xiao Yunju was very smart. He knew that it was time for him to interrupt, so he spoke up. At the same time, Xiao Yunju even stretched out his arms. He pouted and looked at Yunjian adorably as he shouted. When Ce heard that Xiao Yunju wanted a kiss and hug from Yunjian, his handsome face immediately darkened. Then, he pulled Xiao Yunju over discreetly, and carried Xiao Yunju in his arms before Yunjian could hug him. Big brother Ce. Xiao Yunju was very happy to be carried by Ce. He shook his little arms, and his beautiful little face was flushed. Good boy. Ce carried Xiao Yunju with one arm and rubbed Xiao Yunju's head at the same time. At this moment, Lan Su was looking at Yunjian in surprise. She asked Yunjian, Sorcerer God, when will you be able to have a child with Sir Immortal? As long as the sorcerer god gave birth to a girl, even if she could not return to Yulong mainland with her, she could still let her child inherit the position of the sorcerer god. Chapter 564. Lan Su's straightforward words made Yin Jian blush. Ce, on the other hand, smirked at Lan Su's words. Wait for her to come of age. Ce was even more direct as he hugged Xiao Yunju and replied to Lan Su. Lan Su's question was enough to make Yin Jian blush, but what Ce said next made Yin Jian blush even more. What was worse was that Ce had been staring at her with his deep dark eyes. His eagle-like gaze gave off an endless sense of conquest. That's great. Lan Su clapped her hands happily. Yin Jian was 16 now. She could afford to wait for another 2 to 3 years. She had waited for thousands of years. Cough cough. Xiaozhu's still here. Yin Jian looked up with a rosy face and hinted. Xiao Yunju was currently looking back and forth between Yin Jian and Ce with his beady eyes. After a while, Xiao Yunju suddenly asked, Jie and Ce, Gid, you're going to give birth to a little sister for Xiaozhu to play with? That's great. Right after Xiao Yunju said that, Yin Jian was about to lecture Xiao Yunju about his words. The door was suddenly opened. Qin Yiru was standing at the door with 4 steaming cups of tea. Yin Jian was speechless. Did her mother hear that? Qin Yiru walked in suspiciously and placed a few steaming teacups on a small tea table under everyone's watchful eyes. Susu Xiaozhuei Xiaojian, these are freshly brewed tea leaves. Drink them while they're hot. Qin Yiru said. She probably did not hear it. It was fortunate that Xiao Yunju did not speak loudly just now. Yin Jian breathed a sigh of relief. Pressing her lips together, she picked up the teacup and blew on it softly. Xiao Jian, I heard you guys talking about giving birth to a little sister just now. What are you giving birth to? Qin Yiru asked out of the blue. Qin Yiru did not hear her clearly. Yin Jian's hand that held the teacup froze. Her heart skipped a beat, but she pretended nothing was wrong and told Qin Yiru, Mom, you must have heard wrong. As she spoke, Yin Jian stood up and walked over to pull Ce out of the house. Before that, she took Xiao Yunju from Ce's arms and let Xiao Yunju follow Qin Yiru. Mom, I should go to the military. I'll be late if I'm late. Yin Jian tugged the corner of Ce's sleeve and walked out. Ce pressed his lips together. His lips were curled up as if none of this had anything to do with him. Hey, don't be in such a hurry. Look, A hasn't even drunk the tea yet. Qin Yiru called out from behind. Mom, he's not thirsty. Yin Jian said and pulled Ce out of the house quickly. This child, Qin Yiru called out softly, but there was a sense of helplessness in her voice. Yin Jian pulled Ce out of Zhang Meihua's house. Let's take my car. Ce spoke up. Yin Jian thought about it and decided to leave the Ferrari in Xinjiang town. She and Ce got into the Lamborghini. Ce started the engine and drove off, disappearing into the morning sun. On the way, Yin Jian explained to Ce what she wanted to do, including the cooperation with Gu Yunjian's military. At the same time, she told Ce that she wanted to borrow in Hun's power. Ce nodded without a word. No need for that. I'll get Adam to wipe out Inferno Ring directly. Ce glanced at Yin Jian from the corner of his eye and took out his phone from his pocket, planning to call Adam. Chapter 565. Before Ce could reach his hand into his pocket, Yin Jian pressed down on the back of his hand. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes as she looked at him. There was a flash of warmth in her eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Don't. Yin Jian pursed her lips. Her delicate red lips made Ce feel refreshed. I want to destroy the Inferno Ring with my own hands. Yin Jian looked at Ce. Her delicate and beautiful face was burning with hatred. It made Ce itch. The woman he loved was right in front of him. He suddenly felt his whole body heat up. He suddenly regretted saying that he would wait for her to become an adult. She was so beautiful in front of him, but he couldn't do anything to her. Ce really wanted to slap himself and take back his words. Okay. When Ce snapped out of his daze, he had already parked the Lamborghini in a small forest on the way to the military training camp. After saying that, Ce turned to look at Yin Jian. He turned his body slightly, and his tall body pressed down on Yin Jian, who was sitting in the front passenger seat. Ce suddenly reached out to stroke Yin Jian's silky hair. Yin Jian's hair was loose today. It was rare for her to let go of her hair tie and not tie her hair into a high ponytail. At this moment, her loose hair was close to her ears and fell softly. Under the warm morning sun, Yunjian's beautiful face was as delicate as a newborn baby's. It's just a mere inferno ring. Since you want to play with it, I'll give it to you. Siyi's handsome face leaned closer to Yunjian. Although Yunjian was in the prime of her youth, she was no longer a girl who would be shy when she heard sweet words from a man. Besides, what Siyi said wasn't anything mushy or sweet. However, at this moment, Yunjian's cheeks were flushed red. She pursed her lips slightly, and a touch of bitterness spread throughout her body. If international businessmen, politicians, or some of the underworld leaders were to hear Siyi's words, they would probably be so scared that their faces would change color instantly. What do you mean by a mere inferno ring? If even Inferno Ring, an assassin organization that was second only to Han and Kosha mercenaries, could be described as insignificant, then what other organization would be worthy of his attention? Yunjian lowered her head, but she felt warm inside. She wasn't the kind of girl who would be fooled by sweet nothings. But Siyi's words warmed her heart. Just as Yunjian felt Siyi's tall figure gradually approaching her, she expectantly thought that he was going to do something to her. Suddenly, Siyi sat up straight. He suddenly curved his lips. At an angle that Yunjian couldn't see, his handsome lips curled up slightly. His good-looking eyebrows also raised slightly. Yunjian was disappointed and shy. Yunjian's original plan was to make a trip to Han first, then head straight to Inferno Ring's headquarters. However, now that Siyi was back, she didn't have to go to Han anymore. Siyi had just driven the car to the entrance of the military base, when he saw Gu Junjian walking out with a frown. Yunjian waited for the car to stop before alighting. Siyi also got out of the car. He lazily stuffed his hands into his trouser pockets and followed behind Yunjian. The moment he saw Yunjian, Gu Junjian was stunned. Then he frowned slightly and relaxed. He asked her, "Yunjian, why are you here?" I've already contacted Han and Kosha mercenaries. We can set off together now." Yunjian spoke. Then she saw Gu Yunjian's expression and asked, "Officer Gu, what happened? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.